This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate first part of what if Naruto was saved by a Digi-GOD after Sasuke Retrieval arc. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Rain was starting to fall, and other indications of an impending storm were already appearing in the cloudy sky above. Nevertheless, the two warriors remained motionless as they watched each other from the lake in the Valley of the End. They were brothers. The crucial word here is were. And they respected each other as fellow fighters but had no brotherly affection for one another. One of them was wearing wooden sandals, gray arm bracers, and gray kendo shorts. His white hakama was in a heap of shredded pieces, and his right hand was brandishing a katana. When he breathed heavily, he glared at the figure across from him with his rapidly spinning Mangekyo Sharingan. His normally black hair turned dark blue, and his normally pale skin turned brown. He had two hand-like wings to support himself. This was Sasuke Uchiha. One could describe the figure opposite him as the opposite of the boy Sasuke knew as a child. Standard issue black Anbu pants, a sleeveless black shirt, black Anbu armor, Kamnot boots, and a black katana for support were all worn by the man in front of him. His blonde hair fell in sporadic spikes, and he wore a dragon Anbu mask that was cracked down the middle, revealing thin whisker-like marks on his cheeks. Naruto Namikaze's deep blue eyes revealed battle experience that no person his age should possess. According to the village council, the blonde had been sent here on a retrieval mission. Shikamaru Nara, Sakura Haruno, Kakashi Hitaki, 2 Anbu, and 2 Jonin, the last 2 being the Jonin, accompanied him. If the council thought they would get their Uchiha back alive, they were wrong. 4 highly skilled shinobi were sent to capture a traitor. The blonde recalled the discussion he had with his grandmother. Rewind sighing, the Hokage said, "Now that Sakura is gone, I want to inform you 3 of your true mission. You are to eliminate Sasuke Uchiha." As she watched her apprentice depart, grinning at the prospect of bringing the Uchiha back alive, if only she had known. Shikamaru asked, "Tsunade-sama, but what of the council?" "They will be told there was no other choice. The Uchiha will attack with excessive force, no doubt about it," responded the Hokage. "What about Sakura, Tsunade-sama? I feel she is not qualified for the mission," asked Kakashi. The Hokage responded, "Maybe so, Kakashi, but you need a medic, and she's the best you got." "Forget it, Ba-chan. Give us another medic. She'll only compromise the mission. Her feelings for the Uchiha are too deep," said Naruto. With a tone of finality, the Hokage said, "I'm sorry, Naruto, but we have no other option, aside from the fact that I seem to remember you wanting to get him back. That thing we're killing is not my comrade, nor my brother. Our bond was severed all those years ago," replied the Namikaze. End of flashback. He heard his comrades fighting, and the blonde snapped out of his reverie. The blonde thought, "It's time to end this." As he formed the Rasengan, the blonde taunted, "One more shot, Teme?" As the demon-looking boy formed the Chidori, he responded, "Have it your way, dope, you'll wish you didn't." Before they both launched at each other, the blonde said, "No, Sasuke, it's exactly how I wanted it. By the end of this only one will stand." Before slamming their individual attacks into each other, causing an explosion, they clashed their katanas together, separating from one another. When Sakura saw that Uchiha was down after her fight with Karen, she hurried after him, initially assuming he needed more medical care. But the Uchiha saw her approaching him before she realized how dangerous she had put herself in. She collected chakra to perform Kamui because she thought she was going to kill him. When Naruto saw this, he swiftly collected the last of his chakra and used it to speed up, coming up next to Sakura before pushing her away and taking the full force of the blow. When Kakashi and Shikamaru arrived to see how Naruto was doing following their fights, they noticed this. The blonde grinned and said, "Hey, I guess I was right, Teme. Only one will leave, but I doubt you got much time left," despite the pain he was experiencing at the moment, which felt like it was tearing him apart molecule by molecule. Then, as if to apologize, he gave the 2 Anbu coming down a little smile before vanishing in an instant. Sakura exclaimed, "En." Naruto, as she saw the scene. The venom in Kakashi's voice screamed, "Sasuke Uchiha, for your crimes against Konoha, and murder of Naruto Namikaze, your future is death," as he thrust his Reikiri, lightning blade, into Uchiha's chest. Kakashi replied, "Shikamaru, gather the Uchiha, we're leaving." Gazing up at the sky, he said, "Oto, Naruto, I hope you're happy wherever you are." As they headed home, he had to report the death of a brother and a hero. Limbo as he floated in nothing but endless white, the blonde thought, "Damn Teme, just had to mess everything up, couldn't die when we clashed, and I knew Sakura would compromise the mission." "Child," cut off and unnatural sounding voice. The blonde nin asked, "That you Kyubi?" as he attempted to move but was unable to do so because he felt weightless. The disembodied voice yelled, "No child, I am not this Kyubi, I am of a different species." "Nevertheless, what do you want with me? Are you the one who has me here?" replied the brunette. "Yes, boy I am," the blonde asked. "Why, as far as I know I haven't done anything to you." The last people to go after his ass were Sasuke, Akatsuki, and Iwa. "Well, perhaps he did do something." "No, you have done nothing to me," the blonde asked. "Then why keep me here?" "The technique used on you would have killed you, true, but I was able to intervene and sent you here between the living and the dead." "I'm not trying to be impolite, but why?" "Thank you." As the shinobi regained some control over his body, he asked, "I need a fighter. I need your help." "Alright, I'll bite." "What the hell are you talking about?" "Where I am from I can feel that a disturbance is coming. I don't know what it is, but I know I need someone that will give them a fighting chance," replied the individual. The nin questioned, "And why the hell should I?" "You do not, you have the choice to say no, but perhaps you can stop the deaths of many of my kind," replied the individual. "Do you have any idea who you're taking to?" "I'm a ninja, I've been the cause of deaths," responds the brunette. "But remember child, I can also give you another chance at life, a chance to continue your existence." The blonde replied, "Another chance, huh?" Sighing, "You didn't let me finish. I'll help you. I may have killed before but I always repay my debts. You saved me, I save your kind," the blonde thought. "I thank you," the voice said. When the blonde was finally able to sit up, he asked, "One question though, why me? I've been able to tap into some of your memories while we talked. At first when I rescued you was mere chance, though I sensed a great power, but you show a strong will and value for comrades." The blonde replied dryly, "Wow, that's awesome, never do that again." The blonde panting asked, "So now what?" "Damn, being on the verge of death really takes a toll." Before a kunai by his side started to emit sparks of electricity and transformed into a metallic blue card with what appeared to be a yellow D in the center and a pixelated dinosaur emerging from it, the voice said, "It's time for you to go." As the blonde picked up the card, the voice said, "Your key." "My key, huh?" the blonde exclaimed as he felt chakra being drawn from him and into the card. He was then surrounded by lightning-shaped arcs and a black hole with green data specks emerging from it. The voice said, "It's time," just before the blonde was starting to get sucked in. "Wait, what's your name?" Before giving way to darkness, the blonde last saw the creature's 8 golden eyes. "Where I am from, they call me Fanglongmon," the voice replied. "The digital world," the blonde exclaimed, "Damn, this is not what I signed up for." As he plummeted into what appeared to be a forest. Since Kyubi's chakra was almost at zero, the blonde thought quickly and used it as a last resort. The blonde was able to lessen the pain of the impact on the thick tree branch he landed on thanks to the fox's chakra. Then, as the previous one collapsed under the force, he leapt down to the next one. He fell to his knees, panting, as soon as the blonde touched the ground. He stumbled to his feet and walked to the base of a tree, leaning against it, saying, "Damn, note to self, never use Kyubi's chakra after a brutal fight." He noticed that his hand kept phasing in and out, as if it were being affected by static. The blonde muttered, "Maybe a little sleep, saving whatever Fanglongmon is can wait till later," as he fell asleep once more. It leapt down beside him, never sensing another presence. The creature that resembled a demon asked, "What the hell are you supposed to be? You don't look like a Digimon." Before lifting and dragging the human by the foot, the Digimon sighed and said, "Better get you over to Babamon, she'll know what to do with you." The blonde woke up with a start and sat up, realizing that he was in a hut of some sort, but also that Sasuke's previous wounds were still there. Additionally, he observed that every weapon he owned, from his katana to his kunai, appeared to be missing. Gosh, Kyubi ought to have cured those by now. The nin scolded himself, "Damn, Naruto, you really did it this time. How could you fall asleep in the open in foreign territory?" before sticking his head out the hut's open door to see if anyone was outside. When he saw nothing, the blonde cautiously started to leave and started to move toward the tree line in order to stake out the area until he located his weapons, until he was interrupted by a voice. A voice asked, "And where do you think you're going?" And the blonde turned to see an elderly woman holding a broom. "Hey, you talking to me, Granny?" the blonde asked, prompting the elderly woman to approach slowly. Assuming the elderly woman was not a threat, the blonde dropped his defenses, and she struck him in the head with the broom when she got close. The elderly woman yelled, "Who are you calling, Granny? And why are you out of bed? You're still injured." Before being grabbed by the ear, the blonde said, "Ow, I'm a right Granny. Now if you could just tell me where my weapons are, I'll be on my way." "Oh, no you don't," You're not going anywhere not till I say you're healthy enough, and stop calling me granny, yelled the elderly woman. Ow. Hey, can you stop pulling on that? I kinda need it, and if you don't want me calling you granny, tell me your name, said the brunette. I'm Babamon, and stop struggling, Baba. Mon? What the devil is going on here? Just like Fanglongmon. As he stood motionless, the blonde thought. When someone said, "Ah, I see you learned Blondie," the blonde saw a humanoid figure that resembled a demon leap down from his treetop perch. As he held his weapons, the blonde cautiously eyed the figure, becoming more vigilant. Babamon inquired, "Ah, you have returned, where Ebenwumon? The geezer will be here in a few," Flamin yawned in response. "And, you are?" the blonde asked. "What's it to you, Flamin? The Mon?" The blonde smirked and said, "Again with the Mon, what the hell is going on here? Was I sent to save some kind of demons?" "Oh, unless you'd rather be called Monkey, nothing asked what to call you." Flamin growled angrily, "Why, you bastard, that's how you repay me for saving your sorry ass." "You kept me alive?" Raising an eyebrow, the nin asks. Flamin leaned against a tree and said, boredly, "You bet your ass I did. Lucky I came around and not some Ogremon or something, then had to drag your sorry ass back here to Babamon's place. I guess I'm grateful, but why in the world do all of you have Mon in your names?" questioned the blonde. A loud voice said, "Perhaps it's better if I elaborate," and the blonde turned around to see a huge, two-headed creature that resembled a turtle and appeared to have a tree growing on its back. "Oh, that's fantastic. What will happen next? Will I phase in and out?" As if on cue, the blonde's hand started to phase in and out and surround me with static. As his hand stopped phasing in and out, the blonde said out loud, "I really need to stop doing that." He then inquired, "And you are?" With a, "I am Ebenwumon, Sovereign of the North," response, the righteous. The blonde shrugged his shoulders and said, Sovereign of the North, sorry, never heard of you," causing Ebenwumon to perspire. "Would you mind explaining why you are in the digital world as a human?" the enormous turtle inquired. "What do you mean by the digital world? My name is Naruto Namikaze," asked the blonde, though for the first time since he got there noticed that the sky wasn't supposed to be how he remembered. "Last time I checked, Earth isn't supposed to be seeing itself. Wait, if that's Earth, then where the fuck am I?" thought Naruto as he widened his eyes. "Haha, I see you finally noticed, child. You are no longer in the human world. This is the digital world," replied the monk. The two older Digimon gave the blonde a startled look as he muttered, "Stupid Fanglongmon, damn Teme, never told me I was going to be sent to a different world." As Ebenwumon approached the blonde, he inquired, "Child, did you just day Fanglongmon sent you here?" The blonde nin asks, "Yeah, long story, but answer me, what the hell are you?" "Child, I have a proposal for you. I can in a way hack into your mind, memories in a way. While I do this, I can in a way load the creation of the digital world and its inhabitants into you," suggested the ruler. Sighing, the shinobi raised his hand, which was glitching again, and said, "Why the hell not? Been done to me already. Besides, maybe you can help me with this." After receiving a nod from the Digimon, it reached out and hurled one of its vines at the blonde's forehead. Before they could connect, the blonde mumbled, "A piece of advice, Ebenwumon, don't break," confusing the Digimon. Both simply stood there with their eyes closed in intense concentration for 15 minutes. An irritated Flamin said, "Man, how long are they going to take? I have better things to do." "Patents, Flamin, they're taking their time to go through everything Naruto might need. Besides, you spend far too much time fighting instead of relaxing," replied Babamon with a grin. Flamin complained, "Whatever, somebody around here has to get stronger," utterly disregarding the fact that the other two Digimon were much stronger than him. Ebenwumon released the connection shortly after Naruto fell back. The blonde, with an irritated expression, argued, "The fuck, so I am in a different world. Damn it, Fanglongmon, you could have told me first." Ebenwumon praised the blonde's treatment as a child, saying, "Incredible. I would have never imagined humans to go through leaps and bounds as you, Naruto." The ninja stood up shakily and said, "Ah, man, not again. You figure why the hell this is happening to me?" Before Flamin and Babamon assisted him. "I believe so, from your memories reveal. Fanglongmon was able to save you from death. But it seems, however, he saved you cost him much power, so when he transported you to the digital world, it seems he wasn't able fully complete it, so now you're phasing between here and oblivion," replied Ebenwumon. Apparently being the oldest of the sovereign makes sense. The blonde questioned, "Why the fuck does this shit always happen to me?" Before exclaiming, "Just standing is taking so much out of me." Babamon said, "So, how do we help him, you old coot?" As the blonde sat down, Ebenwumon responded, The only way I can think of stabilizing him would be for him to bond with a Digimon, in order to stabilize him. Him being a tamer? Babamon inquired. In a way, however, the way they will bond will be more like partners. Both would grow a closer bond than ordinary tamers, and both would grow by leaps and bounds beyond what some Digimon could only dream of, explained Ebenwumon. As perspiration accumulated on the side of his face, the blonde said, "So who's the poor sucker that gets stuck with me? And any way we can speed this up, I feel weaker by the second." When Ebenwumon saw the man in front of him so weak, he replied, "Ah, yes Babamon, could you go and gather the Digi-Gnomes, and as for your partner, I believe Flamen here would be a perfect candidate." It was unfortunate to see such a great warrior reduced to such weakness after some of his battles. Flamen responded, "Wait, why the hell should I help Blondie here? He seems so weak, and I have to train to Digivolve." He was annoyed that he had been selected to assist Blondie. As Babamon brought the Diginomes back, the blonde said, "Didn't you just hear a word Ebenwumon here just said? We both get stronger, we both get something in return, and with no repercussions?" The words, "Damn it, fine Blondie but you better pull your own weight," ended with Flamen. "Hey, right back at you Saru, Japanese for monkey," the blonde shot back, causing the rookie to growl. The two were surrounded by Diginomes. After a few minutes of Naruto and Flamen being surrounded by red and gray digital data, Babamon called out, "Hush you two, now my digital cousins, you must help us establish a two-way bond between the Namikaze and the descendant of ancient Greymon. We can supply the power but you must do the procedure, now quickly, time is of the essence." The energy surrounding the two then dissipated, revealing two figures that were identical to the ones they had entered but also different. After an hour as the blonde woke up, Babamon's voice said, "So how do you think they will handle the news, Ebenwumon?" "I'm not sure. Flamen will probably not mind as much though Naruto might mind," replied Ebenwumon. Flamen rubbed his eyes and said, "What the hell are you Lord Coots talking about now? I was having an amazing dream I was." Surrounded by beautiful scantily clad babes, caught Naruto off guard, but they were both wondering if he had grown taller or shorter. Ebenwumon replied, "It's amazing to think that your bond has shown up so strongly." Babamon asked, "Do you two feel alright?" as she examined them both and saw that Naruto's prior wounds had healed, utterly disregarding their conversation. As he stretched and noticed that all of his previous fatigue had disappeared, the blonde asked, "Yeah, why?" "Well, as you can see, there were some unexpected results," Ebenwumon replied, averting his gaze. Flamen yelled, "Just spit it out," because the two annoyed him. Babamon gestured toward the mirror and said, "Perhaps it's for the best if you see for yourself." Both of them went to the mirror and were startled by what they saw. Although Flamen hadn't changed all that much compared to Naruto, he was taller and had more defined muscles, but his power level was much higher than it had been before. In contrast, Naruto had undergone a much more dramatic transformation, returning to his appearance from when he was 10 years old. They responded to their changes with, "Awesome, fuck, I'll let you guess who said what." The Anbu agent screamed, "You old turtle, explain why the fuck I look like I'm 10, when I was 20 when I was awake." "Well, that's just it, we're not sure, though I believe the bond caused you to revert to a younger age so your body could become adapted to the bond," replied Ebenwumon with a grin. Flamen exclaimed, "Oh, yeah, no repercussions for me, all I did was get stronger." Acutely Flamen, because of your change all your previous training with your powers was useless. Because of your new power that exceeds your previous ones you have to teach yourself how to control your powers all over again, stated Babamon. "What? No way," Flamen exclaimed in disbelief. "It's not as bad as you believe lad, though before you were a descendant of ancient Greymon, now you have been reborn into a greater Digimon, Flamen X, said Ebenwumon. Naruto whimpered, "Yeah, but what the fuck about me, I'm short again." Babamon laughed but said, "Don't worry so much child, you'll grow again." Sighing. No use in whining, Naruto Namikaze and Flamen X, the greatest partners in the digital world. What do you think Flamen? Stated Naruto with a grin. The Digimon grinned and said, "Naruto, my blonde friend, I think Digimon better watch out for us." After 6 years Naruto's point of view, I'm 16 years old and it's been 6 long years since I first entered the digital world. I can't say that much has changed, or I would be lying, but these years have been good to me. It's like a never-ending battle for some of the Digimon, and I can assure you that Zabuza would adore this place. Don't get me wrong, I miss my friends, but some of the Digimon have become like family to me. Heck, Flamen and I have always been likened to quarreling brothers by Babamon's husband, Gigimon. Well, good old Gigimon and Babamon, who are like my aunt and uncle, have always taken care of me. They gave me a place to stay until I figured things out. Then there's Ebenwumon, the damn old turtle, who is like a grandfather and who reminds me of both Sarutobi. Gigi and Jiraiya. Arrow. Gigi. He's like a mix of the two, and he and Flamen got me a job as one of his agents. As he hurled a pyro dart at me, Agunimon exclaimed, "Oi, Naruto, pay attention." I yelled, "Damn it, Agunimon," and then threw a kunai at him. Indeed, Flamen, who I consider to be both my brother and best friend, developed around 3 years ago. Rewind. Damn it, why did we get stuck taking care of these little Digi-Brats? Grumbled Flamen. We walked behind the inn, training Digimon, and I said, "Calm down, Flamen. They're not that bad." It still amazes me how Flamen can occasionally act like Shikamaru. Please, these little brats are so troublesome, he muttered as he observed them. He and Flamen were taking the inn, training Digimon to a nearby beach when the blonde replied, once again, "Chill, Flamen, we're just going to watch the brats till the primary village is fixed up, they keep getting in the way." "Yeah, I know, sucks though, how the heck did a champion destroy squad of guardramen?" replied Flamen. "Damn Digi bastard attacked from the sky, took out most of the squad in the ambush, the rest were easy pickings, while they were protecting the inn. Training," replied the brunette. "So are we going go after the bastard?" "Not sure. Reports say it was an ice devilman, we'll just have to go and wait till he shows up again, and who knows when the coward will show up again," replied the shinobi. The blonde thought sourly, these brats would have been even more data for the bastard if it hadn't been for that Kabutarimon showing up. The partner inquired, "So Jijimon and Babamon are going to move into the village, right?" As they reached the beach, the blonde replied, "Yeah, just in case the Teme comes back." Flamen yelled, "Alright you brats, go have fun, but stay close," as the inn, training Digimon dispersed. Naruto muttered, "Now we relax," as he lay down. Flamen muttered, "Lazy bastard," before he began to meditate. After 30 minutes, Naruto and his partner were awakened by the inn, training Digimon's cry, "Ah, help." They saw a Shellman pursuing the Digimon and about to crush a Tokoman, but the blonde arrived just in time to grab it out of the way. Flamen exclaimed, "Oi, what the heck is your problem?" Shellman growled, his eyes somewhat dulled, "Get out of my way, I need more data." Naruto pulled out his sword and exclaimed, "No choice then, Flamen, damn Teme here has gone over the edge, crazy for data." When Digimon gave in to their need for data, Shellman was in what he liked to refer to as data crazy. Yeah, you in for some seafood?" Naruto yelled, "Shut up and pay attention, you idiot," as they had to avoid a slamming attack. The two retaliated by attacking the Digimon with their respective long-range weapons. Flamen yelled, "Flame toss," before launching a ball of flame at the Digimon, which was swatted away. Before launching condensed balls of wind at the Digimon, Futon, Renkuden, wind release, drilling air bullet, called out to the shinobi, but they were simply swatted away, just like before. "We need a plan, Naruto, damn it." Flamen was called out as he ducked a swipe. As he dodged the seaweed, like hair from the Shellman that was aiming at the inn, training, the blonde replied, "Kinda busy here." "Ah, fuck," was Naruto's cry as the Shellman had discovered a gap and was aiming for the Tokomon. The blonde used his body as a shield to block the attack, and he watched as the Shellman moved in for the kill, ignoring Flamen's attempts to push it away. For both of them, time had passed in slow motion, and Flamen was only thinking, "No, this won't end this way, I won't let it," when he was encircled by red and gray digital data streams that formed an egg-shaped dome. Digivolution. Flamen is considerate of when Flamen's skin was removed, the data underneath was exposed. When he bonded with Naruto all those years ago, the power that was evoked was multiplied. He had armor on, and he could feel the fire within him growing more intense, hotter, and more potent. He sensed it, the spiritual fire was his, the power to protect, and with one last scream the egg broke, before a pillar of fierce roaring flames encircled him. Agunimon, a warrior with a muscular build and long yellow hair that reached his mid-back, was revealed. He was dressed in red, black, and white armor and had 3 horns on his head that resembled a crown. His power was radiating from him. He yelled, "Pyro darts," since he was pressed for time, in order to separate him from the defeated tamer. "Leave the shell for the brain." Agunimon, who was standing between the two, called out in a deeper voice. "Hey, it's about you Digivolved, you lazy bastard. You're one to talk. Hey, forget it." This has finally descended into a physical altercation, and we're prepared to prove to the fool why he shouldn't bother us. With Agunimon's fire dancing around him, the blonde asked as he stood up and then summoned his chakra, allowing it to envelop him. To the others observing the pair, they appeared to be fallen angels of fire, the epitome of power. To which the digital brother replied, "Hey, born ready, bro." "All right, let's go," called out the blonde as the two fighters vanished into thin air and then materialized above Shellman, launching their assaults. Pump Punch and Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu, Fire Release. Great Fireball technique hurled a dragon of fire and a massive ball of fire at Shellman, but it returned to its shell, shielding it from damage even though it scorched the shell. "The shell is in the way, damn it." As he dragged the blade down the shell, he called out to the blonde, but it left no mark. "Hey, let me do it," called out Agunimon, just before a blade emerged from his gauntlet. Imagine Omnimon pulling his sword from his Wargreymon arm, but it's more like a katana. He then ran up Shellman's side, dodging the Aqua Blaster shots and slicing the shell like butter before yelling Inferno Blast, which caused the shell to heat up before exploding in a fiery explosion, revealing Shellman roaring at them with what little shell he still had. "Isn't he an ugly bastard?" Naruto smiled at Shellman and asked. He laughed as he replied, "Yeah, makes me kind of regret blowing the shell up." The blonde continued, "Well, we had our fun time to end it." The fire spirit shook his head and added, "So true," before launching their assaults. Tornado Pyro, Futon, Enden Kazyuden. As a result of the attacks complementing one another, the Wind Dragon increased the flames to amazing levels, tearing through Shellman's Aqua Blaster and frying the Digimon to a crisp. Wind Release, Wind Dragon Torrent Missile. The tamer smiled and said, "Hey, what's next?" The end of the flashback. For the past few years, training and time off from missions have essentially been the same. Even so, the blonde could sense that something was about to happen, something that would alter him and be a pain in the ass. Tentomon, Ebenwumon's personal messenger, called out, "Hey, Naruto, Agunimon, come over to Ebenwumon's place." He said it was an S-level emergency. They could rely on each other, for better or worse, and they knew something was going to happen when they looked at each other. They were standing just outside of Ebenwumon's office, with Flamen in his rookie form and Naruto dressed in his Anbu uniform that the Digi-Gnomes had managed to fix. His mask was taken off and hung respectfully on his belt. Both of them breathed as they walked into the office. Observing that Babamon, Datamon, Gigimon, and Ebenwumon were already inside, they were aware that it was significant. Flamen questioned, "What's the emergency, Ebenwumon?" as the two strode over to the others. "It's about your latest assignment," the elderly Digimon replied. As they gathered around a holographic projector, which was used to display the mission's target, the tamer asked, "So what's so important?" Ebenwumon replied, "This is your next mission, to protect the Digimon known as Calamon from any threats." Everything went according to plan. Flamen examined the Digimon on the hologram and asked, "So what's so important about the little brat?" Ebenwumon said, "Well, that's just it, that brat, as you put it, is the light of Digivolution, which led the two to imitate a fish." The blonde narrowed his eyes and said, "All right, so whose fucking idea was it to turn one of the most important objects of the digital world into a Digimon?" He was right. This was going to be a real pain in the ass. Azulongmon believes that a certain force has been awakened due to the cause of the Digivotion of Digimon. "The force I believe Fanglongmon sent you to help us fight, so he requested for the Digi-Gnomes to turn the light into a Digimon," replied the Sovereign. The blonde was already going over every scenario when she said, "So you want us to go for that reason? Very well, but I request the assistance of a Mega, if not at least a couple of Ultimates. I wish I could, Naruto, but the Calamon has found a way to enter the human world, and at the moment nothing below a champion can cross over," said the Northern Guardian. "Well, that explains why the others are here. We'll probably leave as soon as possible," the blonde thought. Flamen murmured, "Damn it, so no, we're stuck cleaning up their mistake." Naruto said, "So how do we locate the brat? Your D-Arc, gray body and red rings, should be able to locate it. I have studied its digital output and it's unique compared to others," said Datamon. Before removing the backpack Gigimon had brought and exposing his scroll with clothes and any other valuables he had, the blonde said, "All right, cool, so anything else?" "Well, from the data I was able to collect from Calamon's location, Shinjuku, there are 3 D-Arc signals. 2 have been active for a few mods, the last has been active for only 2 days, said Datamon. The blonde said, "So you want me to recruit them as backup?" "According to Ebenwumon, if you believe that they could help you succeed." Flamen inquired, "What are the partners?" Datamon brought them up on the screen and said, "A Terriermon and Renamon. The last for some reason I was not able to gather any info on." Naruto questioned, "So how do we find them?" "Well, the males go to a public school which you will attend, as for the female she goes to an all-girls school," said Datamon. With a perverted smile, Naruto said, "What, no way, why the hell do I have to go to school, and if I did can't I go to the all-girls one instead?" Babamon struck him in the head, but Flamen was laughing at his bad luck, and Jijimon was screaming about his little boy growing up. Datamon looked fearfully at Babamon and said, "Sorry Naruto, if I could I would, but my hands are tied. But I did arrange for a place for you to stay, along with a credit card, but I won't be able to top it off every month. It might get suspicious as how the money is being sent to you." Naruto said in a relaxed manner, "Hey, don't worry about it Datamon, I'm a ninja, we'll get along by." Flamen asked, "So how do we get there?" after he had finally stopped laughing. Datamon said with a little too much joy, "Well, just step on that platform over there and good old Datamon will handle the rest." As the pair moved to say goodbye to the others, "Yeah, was called out to them. Babamon hugged the blonde and said, "Now you remember to keep Flamen out of trouble Naruto." "Yeah I know," Jijimon added, "and Flamen, don't cause your brother trouble." I'll think about it. Now my lads, this is an important mission, but remember to enjoy yourselves, but be careful," said Ebenwumon. "Don't we always," was the smiling response from the pair. Ebenwumon grinned and said, "And Naruto, I hear that female tamer is quite the looker. Jiraiya looks a lot like him." As they entered the platform, the blonde exclaimed, "Oh, I'll be the judge of that." The Digimon said, "Hey Datamon, this thing is safe right?" Datamon muttered as he entered the coordinates, "Should be." In a terrified tone, the blonde asked, "What do you mean it should be?" "Never been tested before, wait, we don't want to go," exclaimed the couple as they clung to one another and shed anime tears. Datamon pushed the button to start the process, and the words, "Too late boys," rang out. The two, still in tears, were surrounded by arcs of lightning before they vanished in a flash. Calling out to Jijimon, "Datamon, tell me you got the last of it on video." The Digimon exclaimed, "Oh, yes I did," and then burst out laughing. Towers of Hypnos, one of the women in the seats said, "Sir, there are 3 more attempting to bio. Emerge. The computer is acquiring a lock on the targets. The tracking sequence is being initiated." The other women added, "Stand by, the data stream is congested, we may not get a visual." "Send in a tracer," was shouted by a blonde man sitting loudly in a suit. "Bringing tracer online. It's closing in on the target. Run rabbits run," the man added, laughing. One of the women said, "The computer is rendering visual completion in T.5 seconds, but we lost 2. The man who saw the Digimon on the screen sighed and said, "Well, you lost the race, my little friend." Park Shinjuku, when Flamen saw that both were unharmed, he exclaimed, "We're alive." When the blonde noticed the goblin close by, she exclaimed, "Hell yeah, but looks like we got a stowaway." The partner questioned, "Do we get rid of the little bastard?" "Wait, I think we might get a late night show," he and his partner said as they leapt into the trees, right before a Renneman and a red-headed girl of about 16 showed up. When the girl saw the statistics on her D-arc, she became irate and said, "Let's see, Goblin, he cheats, he's got a fireball, Goblin strike, it's just a rookie, where the sport in that? Walk all over him Renneman." Flamen said, it must be the girl's Datamon was referring to, based on his relationship with his partner. "Yeah," the blonde said with a smile, kind of cocky, but not bad looking. Prior to continuing to observe the altercation, Renneman leapt over the club. "Oh, so close," Renneman exclaimed before leaping back. "He's not losing strength Rika." Before Goblin evolved into Fugamon, Rika remarked, "Yeah, this is boring," and then used a card to give Renneman a strength boost, giving her the upper hand. Rika exclaimed angrily, "He digivolved, but how?" Flamen grinned and said, "Someone seems irritated." The blonde continued, "Yeah, either she's mad that he digivolved in the middle of a fight without a tamer, or Renneman still can't digivolve, as he saw that Renneman had still prevailed with little effort." With his partner following him, Flamen said, "Let's get moving, Flamen. For Goblin to digivolve without a tamer, it must mean Calamon is nearby." He then leapt to the next tree, following the signal to his D-arc. They needed to go hunting. After a week had passed since they had arrived in the human world, and things had gotten so bad that they had a decent place to stay, thanks to Datamon. They discovered Calamon the night they got there, and the little brat led them on a lengthy goose chase through the park. When they finally caught him, he thought they were playing a game, so they let him go, figuring that if they were having this much trouble, it would take a mega to catch him or, yes, some candy. The majority of the week was devoted to familiarizing themselves with the city. They also learned more about the city's alleged tamers. He occasionally questions how they managed to do it, but Guilman was unquestionably exceptional. After using a chakra string to hack into Takado's D-arc, his power levels were close to Flamen's and higher than any rookie's. He was finishing up his school attire when he realized how much he detested that word. He thought, not bad, as he looked in the mirror. At the moment, he was dressed in a black denim jacket, black sneakers, black jeans, and a red t-shirt with Flamin's symbol over his heart in black. Naruto yelled as he departed, "Oi, Flamin, I'm leaving. Remember to check on Calamon in an hour." "Yeah, sure," the Digimon said while he was watching television. After school Sarutobi. Gigi wanted the blonde to be both intelligent and strong, so he had to sit through a lesson when he was 8 years old. "You know, I think I found a whole new different meaning for the word loathe," he said. Only that he was in the same class as Takato, one of the tamers. "Oh, what have we heard?" Before Renamon and Rika attacked him, the blonde was observing Takato as he escorted Guilman to the park. "Hey Flamin, are you here?" The blonde believed he was attempting to sense his partner through their relationship. "Yes, and Calamon's okay." "Great, just get your ass over here quickly, we have a show." "I'll be there shortly, just give me some popcorn first." The blonde thought, yeah, just hurry, and closed the link. Takato exclaimed in surprise, "Hey," as Guilman was assaulted. According to Rika, "What a lousy fighter, but a fight's a fight," was said with disappointment. "Hey, I dreamed you," Takato muttered. Rika, somewhat agitated, commanded, do you know how many times boys have said that to me?" Renamon walk all over him. "With pleasure," the vixen replied. Flamin sat down behind some bushes beside the blonde and said, "Hey, what I missed?" The blonde accepted the offered popcorn and said, "Nothing much, just getting started," before continuing to watch the fight. After the fight with Guilman, Renamon stepped next to Rika, who said, "I knew you were just a little boy with a pet Digimon. What do you think Digimon were made for, you goofy little gogglehead?" Takato said, perplexed, "That's like asking the meaning of life." Before Renamon charged at Guilman, she yelled, "For heaven's sake, let's just end this," which sent them grappling to the ground. When Guilman appeared to finally hear Takato's cries, he slid a card and said, "Digimodify armor activate," causing a blaster-like weapon to appear on Rika's arm. "That's just plain sloppy, Renamon," he said, calling out to Rika, which resulted in Flamin's popcorn being knocked away as the bullet entered the bushes where Naruto and Flamin were. Flamin murmured, "Hey, I wasn't done with those." However, before Renamon launched her attack, she paused and turned to face the bushes. She then shook her head and started to use Diamond Storm, but a voice interrupted her. Henry and his partner are revealed when asked, "What do you think you're doing?" Rika asked, annoyed that her victory had been interrupted, "What's it look like?" Takato exclaimed, "It's you, great," in the hopes that Henry would break up the fight. In a sing-song voice, the bunny said, "It's me, it's you, aren't you glad to see us?" An irritated Rika exclaimed, "Oh, come on, they keep popping out from everywhere," observing that Renamon continued to gaze at the bushes and inquired, "What's wrong?" Renamon commanded, "Whoever is in there, come on out now." As he and Flamin emerged from the bushes, the blonde exclaimed, "I was beginning to wonder when you guys were going to notice. Heck, one more minute and we would have joined the fight." Takato said, "Hey, you're that new kid from class, right?" The shinobi replied, "Wow, nothing escapes you, and my name is Naruto Namikaze, not kid." Rika glared at the blonde and said, "Whatever, do you mind stepping aside, blondie? I got a fight to finish." She pointed her D-arc at Flamin, who appeared bored. The blonde replied, "That won't work, babe, Flamin's info is locked away nice and tight." "Good thing those D-arcs of theirs haven't been upgraded," Rika said, sounding annoyed by the nickname. Rika complained, "Whatever, just move aside and we might let you go." The blonde shrugged his shoulders and said, "Nope, don't feel like it. How about you, bro?" he asked. Flamin grinned and said, "You know I haven't fought anyone since we got here. It's sad that they're only rookies, but they'll do." As Renamon took his place, Rika yelled, "You want to fight so bad, monkey? Bring it, I just hope you're a better fighter than Dino Boy." Henry questioned, "Why?" Rika, annoyed that her matches were being interrupted, questioned, "Why what? Why make your Digimon fight? I mean, it's true that on the net Digimon are born to fight, but that doesn't mean that they should fight here. Don't you get it? They came here for something they can't get on the net." "What is it?" asked Henry as he examined them all. "If only you knew, boy," the blonde thought bitterly, "the majority of the Digimon that come here come only to fight, to get stronger, more than ever since the light is gone." "Well, let me know when you figure it out, Socrates," she said, turning to face Renamon. "You know what I expect, Renamon." "Sorry dude, princes here want to fight, then who am I to object?" replied Naruto with a grin. "Just stay out of the way and no harm shall come to your partners. Interrupt and Flamin might retaliate." Flamin asked, So you ready to go Digi babe? Only to be hit by a diamond storm. Just to leap over it? Oh, so close, Flamin mocked. Naruto added, maybe you shouldn't try bro, in an attempt to agitate the two girls, and based on the careless moves displayed, he was successful. As Renamon attempted to strike Flamin with her power paw, the command, hold still, was given. But Flamin managed to avoid them. Flamin swerved around her and said, nah, I know what happens when a girl tells you that, it usually ends in pain. The truth was that he had experienced both the best and the worst day of his life when he was peeking on Lilymon and Rosemon with Naruto. While sliding a card, Rika yelled, enough of this Digimodify speed activate. Renamon accelerated, which prompted Flamin to begin blocking. Rika was taunted, what wrong, Blondie, no cards. The blonde grinned and replied, nope not really, got a few but Flamin doesn't really like them, likes to rely on his own power, and I agree with him. Oi, wrap this up Flamin. Before he struck Renamon with a flame tail and sent her into a tree, he said, got it, bro, and held her up by the arms against the tree. Yield? Flamin asked, receiving a nod from Renamon as she saw his flaming fist inches from her face. Not bad, at all Rika. Chan, was Naruto's compliment, causing Rika to blush a little. As she and Renamon left the boys, Rika muttered, whatever this was just a fluke. After seeing his first actual tamer fight, Takato said, wow, that was awesome, and thanks for saving Guilman. My name is Takato Matsuki. Flamin yelled, no problem kid, just get stronger so I won't have to save him next time. I'm Henry Wong, and I can't say that wasn't impressive, Henry said, reaching out to the blonde. The blonde shook the offered hand and said, yeah, thanks, and I understand where you're coming from, but some Digimon just like to fight, it's in their blood. Oh, man guys I would like to hang out but I have to find a better place for Guilman to stay, said Takato. Flamin led them into a more remote area of the park after saying, you need a place, I think I know just the place, my young idiot of a tamer. The new shack owned by Guilman Takato watched the three Digimon quarrel over food and said, man, I can't believe that girl can think there's nothing more than data. The blonde continued, perhaps she hasn't yet bonded with her Digimon. What do you mean? It looked like they were close enough with the way they fought, replied Takato. The blonde replied, yeah, it might have appeared that way, but I could tell something was in the way. And that's why Renamon won't digivolve, Rika won't let her in. Henry questioned, so you think they're more than data? The blonde replied, yeah, I can't even count the number of times I've seen Flamin bloodied. Henry questioned, if you think so then why make him fight? The blonde responded, simply, I don't. We fight because he wants to, because we want to reach new limits and then break those too. The tamer then got up and said, well, it's been nice, but we have to get going. Flamin then said, hey, let's go get some pizza. Why not, I'm hungry too, Henry, Terriermon added. But you just ate. What's your point? The Digimon. Like Bunny asked, cocking his head to the side. As he left, Henry yelled, forget it, let's go dinner time, see ya Takato. Guilman said, Takatomon, before being cut off. No Guilman, we're not going out for pizza. Aw nuts. The Digimon whimpered. Around noon the following day Flamin and Naruto watched from a nearby roof as people truly thought Guilman was just a child dressed up. Wow, I can't believe human stupidity, Flamin said in amazement. Before his D-arc exploded, Naruto said dryly, yeah, I know can't believe I have to call them fellow humans. Seems the rookies are at it again, let's go make sure they don't delete each other. So Flamin said, yeah, whatever, let me just go get some snacks and proceeded to a hot dog stand. Just hurry. The blonde exclaimed, garage parking. Flamin remarked, well, this is getting old, while he and Naruto were eating snacks atop a car. The tamer continued, yeah, no kidding I would expect a better brawl. As Takato observed Guilman using a pyrosphere, he exclaimed, hey, Naruto, I could use a little help here. The blonde said dryly, don't worry, you got her on the run. You think so? His partner inquired. No, but the idiot doesn't need to know that. Takato said, I'm right here you know, sorry idiot, Takato, was Takato's abject apology to the two people. As Henry and Terriermon arrived on the scene, Henry inquired, what's going on down here? Takato exclaimed, hey Henry, it's great that you came, in the hopes that Henry would break up the altercation. Rika mockingly yelled, as if that weenie little bunny can stand up to Renamon. Terriermon puffed out his cheeks and said, Henry, I think that classifies as rude. Henry looked at the fight and Naruto, who was watching idly, and said, yeah that seems to be going around a lot, before posing. Any reason you aren't helping him? The kid is doing alright. I like thinking of it as a learning experience, replied the brunette. Takato said dryly, just forget it, Henry. I've tried since the beginning of the fight. And I said we would intervene if thing went too far. You don't classify destroying property as going too far, replied Henry. Nope, Flamin replied. Terriermon was admiring himself while running along the side of a car during this time, and as Renneman was about to unleash Diamond Storm, he ran directly in front of Gielman. Then Renneman yelled, "Get out of the way!" Henry screamed, "No, Terriermon," as he dashed in Terriermon's direction, his D-arc glowing. Digivolution. The Terriermon evolved into green data streams encircled Terriermon, creating a dome-like shape. His form was changing and his power was growing as his skin peeled off to reveal his data. He grew larger, had Gatling guns in his hands, wore jeans and an ammunition belt around his torso. Gargomon. After witnessing his first Digivolution, Takato was shocked and asked, "That's Terriermon?" Henry muttered as he watched Gargomon examine itself. "He promised me he wouldn't do it." "Wow, not bad," Flamin said. Before Gargomon started shooting uncontrollably, Naruto added, "Yeah, with those guns of his he could easily support us, or not?" he asked. Rika muttered as she examined the statistics. "Let's see Gargomon, Terriermon's champion form, what a difference. Attacks are Gargo Laser and Bunny Pummel, whatever that is." As Gargomon kept firing, Naruto muttered, "Just great we got a trigger Happy Bunny," but Renneman stopped him in his tracks to shield Rika. The blonde said, "Damn it, Rika, get out of there," just before a few bullets were fired at him and Flamin. None of them hit his valuables, though a few nearly did, and he wasn't referring to his money or D-arc. Flamin questioned, laughing at his partner's pale face, "Should I stop him?" After shouting, "Oh, hell no, I got the bunny bastard, nobody, and I mean nobody, aims at Naruto Jr." Naruto cracked his knuckles and the tamers began to perspire. Flamin shook his head and said, "Nah, you got the last one." The blonde muttered, Fine, go have your fun," before he noticed that Gargomon was getting close to Rika. He started to approach her to clear the way, but it was too late because Gargomon threw them off before he started shooting wildly. Rika, who had been paralyzed by fear, had closed her eyes and waited for the pain to strike, never anticipating that she would be surrounded by warmth. When she opened her eyes, she realized she was beneath Naruto, who had covered her with his body to keep her safe. When the blonde's healing abilities pushed out the bullet that had entered his left arm during the tackle, he thought, "Damn, wasn't fast enough," only to realize that Rika was still in shock from being so close to death. The blonde thought, "Damn, I can't wait for her to move on. I need to apply what Ba-chan taught me." At his request, Tsunade had taught him a few jutsu techniques to help people who were afraid or in pain when he returned. The one he was going to use was quite easy. All he needed to do was slowly introduce some of his own chakra into her system to calm her. He did that by placing the back of his hand on her cheek and then directing his chakra into her. He could see that she was starting to relax as her breathing slowed and her eyes focused, but she slapped him and pushed him away from her after a brief moment. Before being dragged down beside the blonde, Rika yelled, "Arrow! Baka, perverted! Idiot!" as she attempted to stand. As more shots were fired, the blonde said, "Stay down, damn it," and he held his left shoulder while observing how his regenerative ability forced the bullet out of his body. Why? He was utterly perplexed as to why he would put his life in danger. Seeing the regret in her eyes, the blonde asked, "Why not? I couldn't let you get hurt, not if I could stop it, and don't worry about this little flesh wound, Rika-chan," she said, glancing at his blood. "Who said anything about being worried?" Rika shot back, averting her gaze and concealing her slight flush from the charge. Flamin yelled, "Hey Naruto, if you're done being a lover boy, I could use a little help over here," as a bunny pummel struck him. The blonde from his spot next to Rika exclaimed, "I'm on it," before grabbing his D-arc and putting chakra into it to start the Digivolution program. Digivolution. Flamin is considerate of when Flamin's skin was removed, the data underneath was exposed. When he bonded with Naruto all those years ago, the power that was evoked was multiplied. He had armor on, and he could feel the fire within him growing more intense, hotter, and more potent. He sensed it, the spiritual fire was his, the power to protect, and with one last scream the egg broke, before a pillar of fierce roaring flames encircled him. Agunimon. The nin thought, "Oh well, damn, Agunimon couldn't defeat Gargomon in his rookie form without killing him." Upon witnessing Agunimon extract his blade from his gauntlet and start deflecting some of the bullets, he charged at Gargomon and touched the Gatling guns with his blade, causing them to heat up and then explode. He then kicked Gargomon in the torso, causing him to digivolve. As Henry picked up Terriermon, the blonde muttered, "Well, that was interesting." Agunimon yelled, "Let's move people, cops are going to come if we don't," which made everyone turn to face one another before they fled to the park. Close to Guilman's shed. "So mind explaining how in hell your little Saru over there was able to digivolve so easily?" asked Rika. Naruto approached Henry, grabbed his D-Arc, and sent chakra through it to expedite the healing process. "Always to the point, aren't you, Rika?" "Shan, and why should I?" he asked. The blonde replied, "Think of that as an apology," and then returned the D-Arc before Terriermon woke up. Terriermon scratched his head and said, "Anyone get the Digi-GOD of that trainman that ran me over?" Takato exclaimed in amazement, "Wow, that was awesome. How'd you do that? Is this what being a true tamer can do?" "Not really that hard to do, something you just learn after a couple of years," replied the brunette. Rika, who didn't particularly like the direction this was taking, asked, "Years? What do you mean years? I'm supposed to be the best." Flamen responded from the tree he and Renneman were leaning against, "Simple, unlike you rookies, we've been at this for a while." Renneman asked, "About how long?" recalling some rumors she had heard in the digital world about a tamer and a Digimon being fallen angels of fire, which is why she wanted a tamer and would beat any Digimon that stood in their way. The blonde replied, "Well, 6 years seems longer, but then again, I am 26 years old in a 16-year-old body, in addition to the fact that being a ninja accelerates one's maturation." Henry patted Terriermon and said, "That's the reason why you're so good, isn't it? The reason you're so laid back when fighting us?" The blonde smiled and said, "Yeah, but it's not that you're weak, just that I'm better." With a frustrated expression on her face, Rika commanded, "Whatever, just answer my question." Naruto approached Rika and looked down at her, staring into her eyes. "You really want to know, Rika, the reason why Flamen can digivolve?" he asked. Receiving a favorable nod from the girl, he responded to, "Because I'm not afraid." Rika, who was starting to believe the blonde was insane, questioned, "What kind of answer is that?" According to Naruto, of letting him in, of caring for him as a friend, as a brother. "What the heck are you talking about? Digimon are nothing more than data," Rika asked, but she thought, "They're right?" The blonde responded, "Is that what you truly believe? Then I'm sorry, but Renneman will never digivolve." Rika then stormed off with Renneman, who was just about to leave when he turned to face Henry. "Train, what?" He said, "Train, that Digimon can't control his champion form, because he can barely control his already existing power, and that goes for you too, Takato," explained Flamen. Henry looked directly into the blonde's eyes and said, "What do you expect me to do? I can't go around killing Digimon like you or Rika. You could just train in the park or in a mock battle with Guilman here, though as for killing Digimon, it's part of the job sometimes," replied the brunette. Takato yelled, "I thought you said you believed Digimon were more than data." Before he left with Flamen, the blonde said, "Oh, I do, but some of them have to be deleted from the human world. Can't have them exposing Digimon to the rest of these people. The only end result would be having to fight off the bastards from taking our partners." The two boys were left to consider what he had said. As he and Flamen leapt into the trees to see how Calamon was doing, the blonde thought, "They have to grow up sooner or later, we aren't playing a game here. They could die if they don't take some of this seriously." The blonde nin sat on a building ledge and said, "Oi Flamen, you feel that?" "Oh yeah, we got another one coming," exclaimed the partner who was founded on fire. As they leapt towards the Digimon's signal and charged the D-Arc with chakra, causing Flamen to digivolve, the blonde exclaimed, "Let's hope this one will be worth getting up for." As he settled into his new shape, the Digimon asked, "Any reason you did this?" The tamer swung himself higher with a pole and replied, "I want to see if the trip here has affected your fighting abilities in your champion form." With a sweet response, the Digimon accelerated toward the signal. When he pushed himself further after his partner, the tamer yelled, "Agunimon, wait up." The digital realm as he watched impatiently as Renneman was struck by Alamon's tail and sent into a pole, the partner asked, "Any reason we haven't jumped in yet?" He was about to descend there when Terriermon and Guilman arrived to save her. As he closely observed every move until Renneman assimilated Alamon's data, the blonde replied, "Simple, I want to see the extent of their abilities." At the tamers, however, he shook his head. With the tamers, Rika and the others looked around with their D-Arcs and asked, "Wait, why isn't the digital field disappearing?" Until they turned to see another Almond charging at them after hearing a roar behind them. That is, until something slammed onto it, sending it crashing to the ground and scattering dirt everywhere. When the dirt was removed, it was discovered that Agunimon's katana had lodged in Alamon's head, erasing it. The blonde calmly approached the others and said, A word of advice, kids. If the field doesn't vanish, then there is another Digimon still present. Man, thanks for the save, Takato exclaimed. Henry went on, even though it was a little brutal. According to the blonde, met part of the job, when Agunimon joined him. Rika was annoyed by the blonde and asked, what's that supposed to mean? Because she needed to be saved once more. The blonde playfully shot back, always with the questions Rika, keep it up and I think you're in love with me, before he had to avoid a blow to the head. The Digi brother smiled at Renneman and said, oh, I think you got that one right, bro. Maybe Renneman here has some feelings for yours truly too. Keep dreaming, was the icy Digimon of the Fox type's response. Looking at the digital partner, Naruto exclaimed, damn, shot down again bro. The Digimon said in a confident voice, oh, she wants me, but she just won't admit it. Takato attempted to defuse the situation before it began by asking, why are you here Naruto? The blonde shrugged his shoulders and replied, what can't I join a fight? I was just in the neighborhood and decided to take on the Alaman. But Princess here already was in the fight. Having had enough of the blonde and the others, Rika said, forget this Renneman let's go, before she started to leave. Love you too, exclaimed the pair, drawing perspiration from the other four. Henry smiled and said, you know Naruto, I'm thinking you have a death wish. She's going to kill you next time she sees you. Before heading to the park, the blonde responded, what's your point? That's the funny part. Before being pursued, the blonde said, well, aren't you coming? I want to see if either of you have improved. Park Shinjuku. As they came to a halt in an open field, the nin said, okay, this should be far enough, so who's going first? Oh, and no help from the tamers, this is all about your own power. Terriermon exclaimed, oh me first, and was thrilled about the opportunity to engage in combat. I don't know Terriermon, Henry started, but Flamen cut him off. He then assumed a fighting stance that Naruto had taught him some time ago, which was ideal for both offense and defense. Nope, the bunny goes first. Remember kid, you may be the tamer but we are the fighters. Terriermon then lunged at him, attempting to strike Flamen with his head, but it was sidestepped. After that, it turned and fired its bunny blast, which sent condensed, extremely hot air at Flamen. Flamen retaliated by using Noble Heart to punch each blast quickly with its flame-covered fist. Terriermon charged once more, waiting for an opening, but halfway to Flamen, he leapt into the air and used Terrier Tornado to send a miniature tornado in Flamen's direction. Flamen went straight ahead, unfazed by the impending attack, and then he performed Baby Salamander, tearing through the miniature tornado and hitting Terriermon with Flame Tail, sending it to the ground before he pinned him down. Yield, Flamen ordered, clenching a fistful of fire, and received a nod in return. Flamen added, you didn't do too bad kid, while assisting the smaller Digimon in standing up. The bunny, resembling Digimon, replied, yeah, but I still got my butt handed to me. As the others approached the two, the blonde responded, don't worry, Terriermon. Flamen here simply has more experience fighting opponents, not to mention reading their moves. See Henry, because you won't allow Terriermon to fight, his fighting instincts are being dulled, said the shinobi. The teenager was worried as he felt the D-Arc drain his energy, but dismissed it as his imagination. Is this true Terriermon? He asked. Terriermon responded sheepishly, about that. I do kind of feel weaker than when I first got here. I'm sorry Terriermon, I had no idea, I just felt that you were sick of fighting, replied Henry. Terriermon took his place on his tamer's head and said, Momenti Henry, it's okay, just let me fight more, K. He's right, you know he'll be back to normal if he fights more often. Though you're right, sometimes Digimon can get sick of fighting, but our whole existence was based around fighting. No matter what, we have the urge to fight, Flamen said, leaving the tamer to ponder the shinobi smiled and asked, so Guilman, you up for it? Takato-mon? Guilman inquired, requesting authorization. Takato called out, okay boy, but watch yourself okay. Childishly, Guilman exclaimed, okay, before trailing Flamen. Seeing the tamer's anxious expression, the blonde added, don't worry Takato, Guilman should be fine. Since he's been fighting more often, his skill should be fine. However, he was thinking, even though he does have the mindset of an training at times. Flamen took his place and called out, okay, Guilman, come at me with everything you got. Without any delay, Guilman charged at him, trying to slash at him, but each blow was deflected or blocked. Until Flamen punched Guilman in the face, knocking him back a few paces. This prompted Guilman to charge his Pyro Blaster, aiming it at Flamen, who had reached out and fired a flame toss 5 feet away, resulting in a small explosion. Flamen used this as cover to charge at Gilman with noble heart, but Gilman's rockbreaker stopped him. After a minute, however, Flamen managed to get past Gilman's defenses and land an uppercut that knocked him to the ground, where a flame fist was used to pin him down close to his head. Flamen asked, "Yield?" once more, and Gilman gave him a positive answer before he got up to let him. Naruto stood beside his partner and exclaimed, "Not bad Gilman, not bad at all." "Yeah, not bad, just be more cautious," Flamen smiled and added. "Wow, that was amazing. I still don't get how Flamen was able to break through Gilman's guard though," Takato said loudly. "Oh, that easy. I simply followed Naruto's instructions a while ago," Flamen replied, acknowledging his tamer. When Flamen danced around Gilman's slash before chopping his arm and delivering the uppercut, Henry questioned, "You taught him that?" The blonde smiled and said, "Yeah, not really that hard to do. You didn't think you were the only one who practiced martial arts, did you?" Releasing the final section on purpose to observe the boy's response, raising an eyebrow. However, before he could respond, their D-arcs beeped, indicating the emergence of a Digimon bio. Sighing, "I guess it's time for work. Flamen, can you go and take care of it? Should be an easy win," stated Naruto. The Digimon replied, "Yeah, sure, this shouldn't take too long," and then he turned to go, but Takato yelled, "Wait, shouldn't we all go? I mean, things should go much more smoothly." Flamen exclaimed, "Don't worry about me, I'll be fine," before disappearing into the trees. "You sure it's wise for him to go alone?" Henry asked the blonde. "Oh yeah, it's probably just a rookie that got through, but enough of that time for you to correct your mistakes, now first." After spending an hour in the park, Shinjuku's downtown, through a mental connection they had since becoming partners, Renneman leave was ordered for Rika. "Do you think it's a good idea?" Renneman inquired, worried about her. The response was, "I'll be fine, just go." She didn't need Renneman to listen to her thoughts when they were all so confused. How come Renneman cannot digivolve at will while the blonde Baka's monkey can? Rika kept walking down the street toward her house, thinking, "I'm the better tamer, right?" Recalling the last time he was digivolved, as if it were a toy. Recalling how the blonde had previously disregarded Alamon's data entirely, Rika muttered, "He shouldn't be able to. Renneman has absorbed so much data when he ignores it." She was completely unaware that she had been traveling in a completely different direction, one that led her to the less desirable districts, because of her thoughts. That is, until she was finally aware that 4 men were pursuing her after the scent of alcohol filled her nostrils. She inhaled deeply before turning to face them. Rika glared at them and asked, "What do you want?" But they laughed. After the men all laughed, one of them smiled and told her, "Oh, nothing sugar, just looking for a fun time." He also showed her that he had some missing teeth. A minute ago, on the roofs the blonde murmured, "Damn it, I knew that listening to Flamen was a bad idea," while searching for someone to plunder. Despite knowing they had an Xbox 360 to play with, they were broke as a result of listening to Flamen. When they were short on cash, the blonde thought, now who to take out? As he walked around the rooftops, he would locate some gang members or an inebriated fool causing trouble, and without them realizing, he would either beat the living daylights out of them or steal their money. He continued to search until he saw something that made him clench his teeth in rage. "Rika!" the blonde exclaimed as he sprinted toward the girl. "Now, oh there you are, love!" Naruto exclaimed as he rounded a corner and stood in front of Rika, obstructing the men's view. The girl blushed slightly at his declaration, despite knowing it was only a part of the plan. The man licked his lips and yelled, "Get lost, kid, this here little bitch is ours." The blonde replied in a venomous voice, "I'll say this once and only leave before I take you out." One of the men said, "And if we don't, who are you anyway, her boyfriend?" And then he burst out laughing. The blonde yelled, "I am, so get lost before I lose my temper," but the men who pulled out pocket knives laughed. Before charging at the men, the blonde yelled, "Have it your way, fool. Just sit tight, Rika, these idiots are going down." 3 of the men met him halfway. Prior to being punched at the back of his head, one of them attempted to slit him, but his arm was caught and twisted at an odd angle. After turning, the blonde grabbed another man, overpowered him, and stabbed him in the shoulder with the knife still in his hand before backhanding him. He turned and easily got past the poor guard, punching him in the stomach and then kneeing him in the face. The blonde looked into the man's eyes, which appeared to be frozen over, and asked, "So you going to leave us alone?" The man threw the knife at the blonde, but it was caught and thrown back, striking him in the leg. "Just die," he cried. After that, Rika approached him and kicked him in the groin, causing Naruto to flinch as he heard a squishing sound. As he rummaged through the men's pockets, the blonde asked, "Any reason you're here alone?" Rika shot back, "What does it matter to you?" Upon finishing, the blonde replied, "Oh, Nothing much, just looking out for you is all. As Rika turned to leave, someone yelled, "You don't need to help me, you know," causing the blonde to raise an eyebrow. The blonde said, "Impressive being assaulted yet still as tough as nails, huh," as he walked next to her. The girl replied, "I would have been fine, Renneman would have made it in time." The blonde remarked, "Wow, putting a lot of faith in data, huh?" "She's not data," Rika replied. The blonde said, "Well, that's what you keep calling them, so which is it?" Stop with your annoying questions, Blondie, and tell me how you get your monkey to Digivavla," instructed Rika. Before being elbowed in the ribs, the blonde muttered, "Now who's asking the annoying questions?" The blonde responded, "I already told you let her in, Rika, you're so close but you won't let it happen." As they came to a stop in front of her house, she was taken aback by how quickly they arrived. Rika gazed up into his eyes and said, "I still don't get it?" Before he turned to go, the blonde said, "You will. But know this, Rika, this path you're walking now of Digimon are nothing but data, will only bring you both pain. They breathe, they bleed, they feel, and they care just like us. Just think about it, you'll understand." Naruto, thank you, is acknowledged by the blonde. Later that evening, still replaying the conversation she had with Rika a few days prior, Renneman sighed as she strolled along the edge of one of the numerous buildings surrounding the Nonaka residence. Rika gazed into the pond at the rear of her house and asked, "Are you trying to make look bad?" Rika was sitting on the roof when Renneman said, "Why would I want to do that? I only want to make you happy." "I don't get it, what's your problem? Why can't you digivolve? The blonde's monkey can, even the weenie little bunny can." "I'm just waiting, that's all," Renneman said coolly. She turned and attempted a high kick after sensing someone behind her, but it was caught and held firmly in place. Flayman's bored expression was the first thing I noticed. Flayman leaned against a pole and said, "Jumpy, aren't you?" Renneman raised an eyebrow and said, "What are you doing here?" The Digimon smiled slyly and said, "Nothing much, just playing Romeo, want to be my Juliet?" The response was, "Keep dreaming." Flayman smiled and asked, "Oh come on, you can't be that ice cold. I mean, who could resist this face?" Renneman smiled back. It was the spiritual flame wielder who exclaimed, "Ah, so you aren't as cold as you were this afternoon." "Thank you for that," Renneman said after a brief pause. Flayman responded as though it were inconsequential, saying, "Don't worry about it, simple job anyways." Renneman inquired, "How is it that you digivolve?" inquiring as to whether digivolving differed for each individual. "You should know by now. Absorbing data prepares you for digivolving, but that's not what actually makes you digivolve." "Then how?" the Fox Digimon inquired. The Flame Spirit added, "You're tamer, though the way she acts it may not happen." Renneman gave it some thought and said, "Rika may be a pain at times, but I know she cares, even if she doesn't always know how. I noticed that and I believe you, Renneman. You are a great fighter and have a lot of heart. I know some Digimon that would have killed her by now, but you stick by her, why?" Renneman responded confidently, "Because she's my friend and tamer." Flayman exclaimed, "That's good to hear, maybe she will change for the better and hopefully soon," as he leapt away and made his way to Naruto's position. Park Shinjuku. As Rika entered the digital field and saw all the webs, she muttered, "I wonder Renneman is here yet? What's with the webs?" As her tamer entered the scene, Renneman's voice cried out, "Rika? Run!" She couldn't be here because she wouldn't allow Rika to be eaten by Dokugumon, who were known to do so after defeating their victims. Before Renneman grabbed her and sprang out of the way of an impending poison thread attack, Rika was perplexed and asked, "Huh?" Renneman asked in a worried tone, "Are you alright?" Rika responded, "Yeah, I'm fine," before they turned to face Dokugumon, who had made herself known. Dokugumon said, "Perfect, I was just thinking of what to do for dinner," in a high-pitched voice. "Eat dirt," was the response Renneman gave as she stood before Rika, her own eyes narrowing. As she prepared her attack, Dokugumon yelled, "Oh, you're feisty too." They would need to use every advantage they had while Rika was drawing her D-arc. Dokugumon, WoW champion level. Finally we have a worthy opponent. With her poison thread attack and venom blast, this spider's as deadly as she is ugly, Rika said aloud as she pulled up the data. Renneman added, "Then I'd better step on her," before launching himself into combat and yelling. Diamond Storm launched a hail of diamond like crystals at Dokugumon, but poison thread retaliated, halting the assault in its tracks. Prior to Dokugumon turning and halting Renneman's advance with a venom blast attack, Rika headed over to Renneman and yelled, "Renneman, don't give up." Renneman, who was struggling with her confinement, yelled, "Rika, get out of here." It would be useless for Rika to die if she was already going to. However, Dokugumon's web ensnared Rika before she could hear her. Dokugumon was getting closer to the girl. As she launched her attack to repel Dokugumon and free Rika at the same time, Diamond Strom called out to Renamon. Over them with his fist already engulfed in flames, Flamin glared at Dokugumon as she closed in on Renamon, asking, "Why aren't we jumping in now?" Still struggling to stay upright, the blonde replied, "Don't you think I want to be down there too?" He was protective of Rika for some reason. When Dokugumon's mouth crushed Renamon and grimaced, Flamin begged, "One move, Naruto, just one move." Before using Flame Toss and Futon, the blonde yelled, "Just one, this is their battle." Renkuden, Wind Release. Drilling Air Bullet, struck Dokugumon in the side, forcing her to release Renamon. This was the girls' fight, and the only time they would interrupt before they both moved to a new position. On the ground, "I don't know where that attack came from, but no matter, they will die soon enough too," Dokugumon said. Before firing a Venom Blast and turning to face Rika, Renamon shielded her. As Rika watched her broken partner, she asked in a worried voice, "Oh Renamon, why you do it?" "Because you're my partner?" Renamon asked feebly after Rika caught her. Rika called out, "I'm so sorry, Renamon," without realizing Calamon was standing next to her. "Rika, leave while you can," Renamon muttered. With tears in her eyes and her voice choking, Rika replied, "Please don't leave me. I have to." "Please go," the Digimon muttered. "You can't, Renamon. Wait." Finally turning on the Digivolving program, Rika exclaimed as her Digivize started to glow. Digivolution. Renamon evolves too. Blue digital information encircled Renamon in the shape of an egg. She started to transform as her skin peeled off to reveal her digital form. With the yin yang sign emerging on her forehead, 9 tails spouting, and ghostly blue flame enveloping her, her form is becoming more fox-like and bestial. Kyubimon. And then the dome collapsed, exposing her to everyone. "How did you do it?" Rika inquired as she observed her partner's new shape. Kyubimon replied, "It was you, Rika. You made me digivolve." "The poison thread!" Dokugumon yelled out, attempting to stop it quickly, realizing that the game had changed. Ignoring the data, Kyubimon simply landed in front of Rika after calling out, "Payback time." Calmly, closing her eyes, and focusing before calling out Foxtail Inferno, which sent 9 fireballs at Dokugumon, each of which lit the webs. Then, both champions charged at each other before Kyubimon called out Dragon Wheel, spinning herself and creating a blue fire dragon that fried Dokugumon to a crisp. "Why didn't you load the data?" Confused, Rika asked. "Because I don't need it anymore. I have you now, Rika, so do you now understand?" replied Kyubimon. "Yeah, I think I do," Rika replies, grinning slightly. "I couldn't digivolve until you really cared about me, Rika." "Oh, I suppose Naruto was correct," Rika continued, "not that I'm ever going to admit it," before laughing. Over them the blonde chuckled at Rika's remark and sheathed his blade, saying, "Well, that was troublesome." "Yes, I am aware. Does it really take a potentially fatal situation to reach that girl?" Flamin inquired. "Don't know, I just hope not," the shinobi replied. Flamin smiled and teased, "Why are you worried about how you're going to influence your girlfriend?" "She's worried about what she might get herself into, but she's not my girlfriend," the blonde replied. "I have a right to worry if she's anything like me when I was that age," and leapt to the next branch. With a wave of his excuses, the Digimon replied, "Yeah, whatever bro, I see you like her." The blonde smirked and shot back, "You're not one to talk, Fox Chaser." The fire user replied, "Whatever, let's just go check on Calamon before the little idiot can get far." "Aren't you quick to shift the topic?" As he drew out his D-Arc and started to hone in on the target, the blonde called out, "But you're right, let's get moving, can't let the cream puff fall in the wrong hands." He felt that something was about to happen, but he was prepared, and he said, "I just hope the others are too," before accelerating. It had been a few days since Rika had finally come to terms with the fact that Digimon were living things, but that was about the only interesting thing that had happened because it was a slow week. The shinobi who lived in Shinjuku sighed as he left what he liked to refer to as adolescent hell. The blonde muttered, "Damn it, something happened already," as he turned the corner and saw Takato and Henry. Takato's face gave him hope that his wish would be granted. He led them outside and grinned as he called out, "Follow me." A playground close to the school, Henry sat in one of the swings while the brunette took the other, suggesting, "Start from the beginning, Takato, and this time slow down." "All right, we were merely strolling and I was unsure," Takato replied, allowing the story to sink into the other people's thoughts. It felt like half of him was there and the other half was beginning to be rubbed off by the eraser. "Digimon aren't real, though," Or maybe our world gets rid of them like a body gets rid of a virus, Henry said, glancing at the boy wearing goggles. Perhaps some of them can't last long in this world and they get pulled back into their world or something like that. Before the blonde finally voiced his opinion, Takato argued, "What, but Gielman just got here, he can't go back to the other side." "I don't think so, or else this would have occurred much sooner. Furthermore, why not eliminate them at the moment of bio emergence if it were similar to the human body?" The Kyuubi's jailer looked at Henry, then at the now relieved Takato, and explained, "And Terriermon and Renneman have been here longer, so it would have affected them first since it would have had more time to get them." "Where did you claim to be?" In an attempt to help the blonde recall the lesson, Takato responded, On the south side of Shinjuku Park, near a big gate with some kind of entrance into the hill behind it, you know, the 1 megasecond Asaji talked about today. I kind of slept through the lesson, the blonde said, grinning and scratching his cheek as he leaned against the swing set's pole. Henry looked at the blonde who was thinking and said, "It's an old flood tunnel that goes from Shinjuku Park all the way to Odaiba." "A tunnel?" After reviewing the material for a moment, the blonde clarified that he truly had no idea what Takato was referring to. "Let's just hope that little problem stays in there till we can get a better idea of what we're dealing with." With a sigh, the blonde pushed himself away from the swing's pole before turning around and saying, "For the time being, if you have your partners with you, stay as far away from that area as possible." The blonde concluded his warning in a somber manner by saying, "And whatever you do, don't go in there alone, who knows what could be behind this." Henry acknowledged that Terriermon was safe, but he also thought, "I have to make sure I stay out of that zone when I go out training with Terriermon." "Hey Naruto, will you make sure Flamen isn't nearby?" As he watched the blonde start to leave, Takato asked. His only answer was a laugh, followed by a smile. The blonde started planning how to wake up the pyromaniac and then added, as an afterthought, "Might as well go warn Princess too, I suppose. Let's see if she missed me." "Nope, the bum is probably sleeping from his late night gaming, which reminds me I have to go and wake him up." "You are aware that she will eventually kill you for that, right?" Henry laughed and asked. Before a smile appeared on his face, the blonde responded, waving off the advice, "Meh, she can't lay a finger on me if she's trying to hurt me. Though if she's trying to get closer then she can touch anything she wants," he said, finishing with a perverted giggle that strangely reminded him of one of the fabled three. "He is aware that she will most likely murder him at some point, isn't he?" Takato, who was watching the perverted blonde walk away, asked with a drop of perspiration. As he watched the blonde's return, Henry said with a strained smile, "You know, I think he enjoys messing with her way too much." After 20 minutes, outside Rika's school, his partner was staring at him with daggers as if hoping the stare would pierce the blonde's head, and the blonde sighed as he leaned against a wall across the street from Rika's school, knowing that the bell would soon ring, indicating her release from hell. "Will you now stop?" As he looked at his partner, the blonde asked. "No." The fire elemental Digimon hissed out, "You bastard, why can't you be nice like that, Henry kid? I bet he doesn't wake up Terriermon by dumping a bucket of cold water on him." He detested the way his partner had woken him up some time ago. The blonde smirked and said, "Meh, pipe down Flamen, I could have done worse. In addition, would you rather I cuddle you so you could relax and become weak?" The Digimon nodded his head wisely and said, "Good point." Meanwhile, the school bell rang, indicating that the students were free to leave. The blonde turned to face the gates and waited for the impending group of girls to emerge. Once the girls had gathered, he started looking for the Digimon Queen herself in the crowd. With his shinobi training, Flamen quickly found his goal, but the outcome was hilarious. The reason was because when Naruto first saw her, his mouth was open a little because she was wearing her school uniform. Heck, Naruto knew she was attractive for her age, but that wasn't the only reason he was drawn to her. The way she looked in that uniform was like the first time he had ever tasted ramen. With all the curves in the right places, the girl defiantly filled out the uniform, and the blonde thought, "Fanglongmon, you bastard, I finally forgive you for sending me here." The blonde's eyes widened as he thought, "Oh crap, I'm turning into Arrow. Senin. God, I want to see what's under that skirt." "Oi!" Naruto snapped out of it. Flamen smirked as he watched his tamer break out of his trance, the first time he had ever witnessed Naruto react that way to a female, though he couldn't really blame him because he had spent years in the digital world where few Digimon were interested in humans. "What?" was the only thought the blonde could generate. "Come on, we couldn't see her because you were drooling," called out Flamen as he tried to find Rika and leapt onto a roof after making sure no one was looking. "I wasn't salivating," hissed out the shinobi as he stretched his senses out to find Rika. Finding her not far off, he called out, "Over here." Rika would occasionally turn and search for someone, but soon the two were following her from the rooftops. Do you think she can sense us? As he gazed at his human companion, the digital brother asked. I doubt it. As he gazed at the girl, the blonde replied, it must be Renneman that's sensing us but can't pinpoint our location. He and Flamen could sense that they had a telepathic link, but it wasn't because they had a two-way bond. It appeared that Renneman wanted to protect Rika when she got there. They soon realized they were in Rika's neighborhood and saw that she had taken a left turn when they knew her house was on the opposite side. After exchanging glances, the two leapt down and headed for Rika, noticing that the girl was at a dead end and glaring at them with a hint of surprise. Why are both of you pursuing me? Although she was taken aback to see the blonde and his monkey, Renneman had been able to alert her that someone was pursuing them, and she wasn't prepared to see them. As Renneman emerged behind the two, Rika asked in a firm tone. Just came to see an angel, was Naruto's smile, which made Rika blush a little. However, she soon recovered and smiled back as she approached him and prodded him in the chest. So, lover boy, are you in love with me? What if I am? As he took her hand and smiled at her, the shinobi asked. Oh, hurry up. Even I don't act so cheesy when I approach Renneman. So, get right to the point. Flamen yelled before Renneman gave him a backhand. The fox Digimon was grinning at him, but she found his attempts to court her occasionally annoying. But at the same time it suits him, she thought. The blonde glared at his partner and growled, damn it Flamen, before he sighed and went on. The idiot makes a valid point even though he can't keep his mouth shut. We came to see how you two were doing. What about Blondie? Rika raised an eyebrow and asked. The blonde said, maybe it's best for us not to discuss this here. The female tamer sighed and nodded to Renneman, who then started to phase out. Okay, let's head to my house, she said. After giving Flamen a strange look from Rika, the blonde spoke, see you there bro, before he too faded out and followed Renneman. You didn't believe that Renneman was the only person capable of pulling that prank? As they walked, Rika turned her head away to conceal her blush and said, actually I did. The blonde smiled and said, well, I can't blame you, not many Digimon use it. However, as he listened to her, he saw that she had a recent wound on her arm, but it was almost fully healed and left no scar. As he reached for it, the blonde muttered, weird, I didn't notice that wound there when you fought Dokugumon. Rika took her arm back, blushing from the contact, and said, oh, that's nothing really, just a scratch from when Renneman tackled me out of the way. However, she soon noticed the blonde's slip. How did you find out that we battled Dokugumon? As she pursued the blonde shinobi, Rika snarled, you were there weren't you? The blonde looked back at her, and rather than feeling afraid, he was mesmerized by her gaze. Damn it, why is she the only one that can make me slip up? He thought. With her arms folded across her chest, Rika yelled, answer me, Blondie. Yes, we were, but it looks like you finally understood what I was saying, asked the jailer after she nodded. Yeah, I do, said Rika, smiling before frowning. That night, I got Flamen shooting the fire attack, but what about the wind one? I don't know what you're discussing. The blonde said, you must have been seeing things after you were tackled, and he cursed himself for slipping once more. He stared at the shinobi and shot back Rika's ass, saying, I know there was a wind type of attack Blondie. As they arrived at the front of her house, the assassin insisted, I really don't know what you're talking about, Rika. Yeah whatever, was added by Rika, who rolled her eyes at the blonde's pathetic attempt to conceal the truth. She sighed when she realized she wouldn't learn anything from the blonde and led him inside her house. Since her grandmother hadn't called out, she assumed she was out, but she wanted to be sure. No response to, Oba. Chan you home? Wow, got the house all to ourselves, was said by the blonde in a tone that sounded innocent, but she could hear something beneath it. As she gazed at the shinobi, Rika gave the final command, shut it Blondie and wait for me in the back. With a smile that was uncannily similar to Kakashi's, the blonde suggested, maybe I should come with you. I mean skirts can be so tricky at times. Before the blonde left, Rika yelled, and Naruto, if you catch me peeping on you, I'll castrate you before I burn them in front of you. I think I can handle it myself, she replied, gesturing for him to go outside. Even though he knew she couldn't do that to him with the skills he had developed over the years, the threat sent shivers down his spine, and the shinobi turned to face her with a pale face before nodding and running outside. The blonde sighed and opened the door to what he thought was the outside, where Flamen and Renneman were grinning at him. You two were listening in, were you not? He looked at the two whistling naively and deadpanned the blonde. Naruto, of course not. Why do you think that? Asked the fire type, but he laughed. Don't you enjoy making death threats against me? With his eyebrows twitching, the blonde asked, but all he could manage was another laugh. The blonde then growled and lunged at his partner. Stop talking, Flamen, Uteme. The way the two behaved toward one another made Renamon smile from the sidelines. As she watched them wrestle on the ground, the fox Digimon thought, "It's so strange, I have never heard or seen of a partnership as theirs. Is this how I and Rika can act towards each other, as equals?" She perspired as she saw the blonde start strangling the Digimon while yelling at him, but the partner would only laugh intermittently. To make a point to the blonde Renamon, she said, perhaps not completely like them. She wanted to be close to Rika rather than fight with her. Was it Naruto? Getting a nod and attention from the blondes. As she gazed into his eyes, the fox Digimon calmly added, "What you said to Rika I have no problems with, but her threat still stands." She wanted Rika to be happy, and even though she didn't always seem to enjoy his company, she could tell that she did with the blonde. Heck, she was certain that Rika didn't mind the perverted remarks that much, but she wouldn't allow the blonde to hurt Rika. "Yes, I am aware of that, but don't worry," the blonde replied gravely. "I may act perverted at times, but I know where the line stands." After realizing her point, the blonde resumed strangling his partner. Rika, dressed normally, soon interrupted the three by sitting on her porch, staring at the scene in front of her and coughing to get their attention. "Are you blonde?" With a hint of humor in her voice, Rika asked. "I guess," was the blonde's casual reply as he got up, dusted himself off, and approached her. "So, what topic did you wish to discuss?" questioning the girl directly to the point. As he leaned against the support beam beside her, the blonde responded, "Something weird happened to Takato this morning." "Why does Gogglehead always have strange things happen to it?" asked Rika as she looked at him and got a chuckle in response but continued, "So what happened?" "You know the old flood tunnels that run beneath the park? Takato and Gielman were out by them this morning. And as Gielman passed the gate, according to Takato, it was like half of him was there, while the other half was being rubbed out by an eraser. Weird, I know, but this is Takato we're talking about," he said, receiving a nod from the blonde as she listened. "Are you certain the dinosaur boy isn't intoxicated?" asked Rika, grinning amusedly. "Well, you make a valid point." Naruto smiled and said, "So, has anything happened?" "I never considered that, but I doubt it. Takato isn't the type of person to do that." Rika replied, "Not when she's around me," but she also questioned, "Renamon?" The vixen replied, "No, everything has been normal," but before they could say anything more, a voice said, "Are you home, Rika-chan?" Rika called out, "I'm out here, Oba-chan," and she waved a hand at Renamon, who nodded before grabbing Flamen and pushing him aside. Just as the doorway opened, an older woman emerged. "Hello, I'm sorry, I'm not used to Rika bringing boys home," Seiko said, noticing the blonde next to her granddaughter. "What's your name?" while grinning at Rika, which conveyed the message that there would soon be constant teasing. Naruto gave her a small bow and said, "Namikaze Naruto, Hada.san." He recognized her from his scouting work with the children. The woman grinned and said, "Oh, don't be so formal, you're Rika's friend. Just call me Seiko," she continued, "though I can't say I've heard the name Namikaze. You see, I'm not really from around here, so I doubt you would, Seiko.san." The blonde replied with a melancholy smile, "I lived in rural Japan with my godfather until he passed away. He would only divulge that information for the time being because he felt he couldn't tell them the truth and had to lie." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," Seiko said, berating herself for bringing up those memories with the blonde. The blonde smiled and said, "It's okay." To him it was his duty to protect what he felt was precious to him. Although his response prompted more questions, neither pried out of concern for hurting him. Rika, meanwhile, was absorbing all the new information. She learned a lot about the blonde from her brief talk with her grandmother, but she also realized that if he was living with his godfather, his parents must have already died. Although she might not be able to see her father as much as she would like and her mother could be a pain at times, she knew they would support her when she needed them. "Hey, how about I prepare some snacks for you too?" As she reached the same conclusion as her granddaughter, Seiko asked, forcing herself to avoid feeling sorry for the young man because she knew it would be offensive to show sympathy for someone like him. Rika quickly responded, "It's okay, Oba-chan, he isn't going to stay long." She said in a lower voice, "You're not," because she didn't want to think about what would happen if he stayed and her mother returned home. Seiko.san, she's right. I was just about to leave, the blonde replied with a charming smile. With a supportive grin, Seiko said to the blonde, "Well, then, I hope you come around more often." When the blonde smiled and said, "I don't see why not," Seiko nodded and went back inside. When the blonde turned around, she saw a red head that was agitated. "You're not coming back. Why shouldn't I?" The blonde, who liked to watch her get worked up, asked. "Just forget it, Blondie," smiled Rika in response. The shinobi responded, rolling his eyes, as you command princes, as Flamen and Reneman reappeared. You were aware that I could have simply phased out. Flamen turned to Reneman and said. You were too slow in moving, was Reneman's cunning comment. Flamen smirked and said, yeah right, I bet you just wanted a reason to pin me down, but she replied, perhaps. Flamen said, oh, yeah, who's got game, prior to Naruto giving him a bonk. When Naruto saw his partner glaring at him, he responded, stay away from Seiko before you attract him back. In any case, did you have any theories about what's going on? Rika inquired, attempting to return to their initial discussion. As they made their way to the rear exit, the blonde responded, nothing really solid, just a lot of random ideas but nothing really fits in with what's happening. So why not just stay away from the area? Rika raised an eyebrow and said, she had to figure out how to stop whatever was going on because she wouldn't be able to forgive herself if something happened to Reneman. The shinobi shrugged and said, yeah, that's the basic idea for no at least. He also added, just don't go down there by yourself trying to fix anything, since he was aware of her behavior. At that age, she resembled him too much, especially now that she acknowledged how much she loved Reneman. The smaller girl scowled and said, I wasn't even thinking that, while Reneman laughed beside her. The words, don't worry, I'll make sure she doesn't, caused Rika to mutter, traitor, under her breath. The Digimon turned as the other two laughed and opened the gate before going outside. With two nods from the girls, the statement, well, it's been fun, but we better get going before we have some things to do. Before the blonde could depart, Rika said, wait Naruto. Thank you, for everything. The blonde simply said, anytime Rika. Chan, but could you do me a favor? While nodding and grinning at her. I owe him that much, though I wonder what he wants, the girl thought as she reluctantly nodded to the blonde and waited for his request. Well, if you have any more of those school uniforms I would love to see more of them. I mean really those things defiantly give me a chance to see more of you, replied the shinobi while grinning. But before he could leap back and start running down the street, he had to dodge a beet red Rika's punch. The girl, still in red, screamed, Namikaze Naruto, come back here so I can beat you to an inch of your life. As he vanished from view, the blonde's only response was, I love you too. Rika growled and slammed the gate shut, furious at the remark. She turned to see Reneman trying to contain her laughter after hearing a giggle next to her. The female tamer, still flushed, asked, now what are you laughing about? Oh nothing, the girl's partner replied with a knowing smile, just that you won't admit you like him. The girl shot back, surprised by the remark, yeah, well, you like his monkey. The girl was taken aback when the vixen retorted, perhaps I do but I'm not afraid to admit it. Just forget it, was Rika's stutter as she reviewed her emotions, but she was having trouble comprehending everything. She soon met a tamer who was obviously a fool and taught her that Reneman was her best friend. She didn't know how to feel about him because he was one of the few men in her life who truly looked past her facade and saw the true her. Even though he occasionally said offensive things, his sometimes perverted gaze was different from how other people saw her. When he saw her, he made her feel special, but when other guys stared at her, they only saw her body. She sighed and shook her head, making her partner laugh at her annoyance. Later that evening the blonde let out a sigh as he and Flamen navigated the park's trees. Takato had only called him a few minutes earlier. It appeared that whatever was going on had finally engulfed Guilman. The two of them left at full speed after phoning Rika to ask if she could make it. As the blonde muttered, this is bullshit. What, Guilman's kidnapping or the fact that you won't be able to study this thing? Asked the other person. As they at last started to approach their destination, the tamer replied, both. He wanted to learn more about this in case it happened again, but he couldn't do everything he could because of the children present. The time had simply not come to reveal his true nature. As they approached, Terriermon's voice asked, what are you doing here? It appeared that Rika had arrived before them. The blonde said, I asked her to come, emerging from the shadows. She might be needed to help stop whatever is happening, so deal with it before I decide to test the taste of Digital Rabbit. Understood? You. Understood, was a strained smile that Terriermon stammered out. The blonde's threats had always made him shudder. Henry smiled at the blonde and said, can you stop threatening him before you give him a heart attack? Before turning to Takato and asking, so this is it? Takato nodded and said, yeah, this is where Guilman disappeared, as he gazed. Flamen led them all forward until his legs started to fade. Well, we better go find the troublesome little runt, he said. After arriving at Flamen's location, Rika called out to Reneman as her arms started to phase in and out. Terriermon was called out by, Henry, because the area of his ear that he had implanted was also impacted. If your digital eye suggests you step back, there is no reason to lose one of you guys too, said the shinobi. Guess this is as far as we can go. Man, and I wanted to go see what was happening, moaned Flamin. As he followed the others to the tunnel, the shinobi yelled, just relax and keep out of sight, but halted when the others remained motionless. What's wrong? Move it, Dino boy, Rika yelled, crossing her arms. As Takato struggled with the door, he replied, it won't open. The blonde looked at the doorknob and said, move it. He then took a door pick out of his pocket and opened it in a matter of seconds. How you do that? Henry inquired as the shinobi tucked his weapon away. A simple task for a ninja, was the jailer's smirking response. It was up to them whether or not to believe him because he was speaking the truth. As they all proceeded down the tunnel, Takato called out, yeah right, let's just find Gilman. It appeared that they didn't believe him. After 10 minutes. Anyway, how long is this dumb tunnel? Angrily, Rika asked. Takato responded, it's supposed to go all the way to the next town. That is really foolish. Rika rolled her eyes and grumbled. Yeah, so you said. Henry, I agree. The fact that they don't have one of those people movers at the airport is unfortunate. Don't you think that would be useful right now? Takato inquired in an attempt to lighten the atmosphere. You know, it's not funny. Rika shot back, irritated at the idea, I don't want to walk all the way to the next town just to find your little friend. As the two followed Takato and Henry, the blonde said, I could always carry you. You'd like that, wouldn't you? Smiled Rika in response. Naruto smirked and said, you bet your ass I would, which made her cheeks slightly flush. She didn't know Naruto was the most unexpected person she would ever meet, because that's exactly what the blonde did when he picked her up bridal style. Then maybe you should challenge the girl, who thought he wouldn't have the gall to do it. Put me down, Blondie, Rika commanded, glaring, but her amused eyes betrayed her. As the girl's hand twitched in a squeezing motion, Takato said, maybe you should Naruto. He knew two things. He would never get used to Naruto's flirting, and he didn't want to lose his crazy friend to Rika's strangling. The shinobi laughed and disregarded the advice, saying, nope, I think she likes it. Henry tried to ignore the argument between Naruto and Rika, but he could see that they were enjoying their threats excessively. Your funeral, called out to him, and the blonde quickly put Rika down as they approached a huge energy dome. It contains Gilman. Gilman, called out to Takato, who continued to advance until Naruto stopped him. Avoid being foolish. How would you know? Rika looked at the dome and folded her arms across her chest before asking. I'm not sure how. Takato turned to her and replied, I just feel like he's in there. Henry tried to reason by saying, just wait a minute, Takato. You don't even know what this dome is. Naruto interrupted, but, as he said, he's right, you know, so let me test it. He moved forward and took a kunai from his pocket. Why is the knife there? Rika, who might not have been very knowledgeable about weapons, asked him how he held it. The blonde appeared to be able to use it. With a, just running a little test. Response, Naruto raised the knife and threw it against the dome, electrocuting it and sending it flying back at the blonde, who sidestepped it and allowed it to sail safely to the wall where the power it had encountered caused it to fall apart. Henry exclaimed, well, that was weird. The crazy blonde first pulls out a knife, which the dome shatters. Rika nodded and continued, well, it appears that we aren't getting in this way. The blonde was discussing what to do in the meantime. I could maybe blast it open, but that would require me using jutsu, he thought, but he rejected the idea because he didn't want to come out this early. Henry held out his D-Arc, which was glowing, and said, well, our Digivices connect us to our Digimon, so maybe we can use them. The others soon followed. See, it's functioning. As a portion of the dome started to open up, Takato called out. Gilman. I'll be there. As he lowered his goggles and stepped inside the dome, the brunette yelled out. Hey, hold on. Henry put on his sunglasses and ran after him, shouting out. Rika and Naruto sighed as they looked at one another, took out their own sunglasses, and chased after them. As she stepped inside the dome, Rika grumbled, this is so stupid. The blonde replied, yeah, well, this is what we get for hanging out with Takato. The four of them started floating around aimlessly inside the dome, which was very different from what they had anticipated. Henry looked around and thought, perhaps the digital world from the TV show is real and we're in it. The shinobi shot down that theory with a, no, this isn't the digital world, trust me, response. Takato ignores them, raises his goggles, and yells, Gilman. I believe I see him, and started swimming forward, saying, cool, this is how I fly in my dreams. Henry swam after the brunette and called out, hey, wait up, Takato. You and your aspirations. As she followed them, Rika said in an irritated manner. As he started swimming behind Rika, the blonde thought, this is going far too smoothly. He blushed a little when he saw her ass, but he couldn't help it. Training under Jiraiya had somewhat corrupted him. The view is awesome, he said. The four quickly discovered Guilman being restrained by a blue digital rope after navigating through the digital data. He's there. Takato smiled and yelled, Guilman, wake up. After a moment, Guilman opened his eyes and groggily said, 5 more minutes, which caused his tamer to laugh. Before the group's blonde swore, Takato responded, don't worry boy, I'll get you out of there, somehow. When Rika saw why the blonde had cursed, she exclaimed, shit, look at the ropes, they're being erased. Takato cried out in panic as he saw the ropes being removed and moving directly toward his partner. I won't reach him in time. As he produced several shuriken and yelled, Rika, Henry, throw him at Guilman now. The shinobi snarled, yes you will. As instructed, the two grabbed Takato's arms and threw him at his partner. Meanwhile, the blonde threw the shuriken, which safely whizzed past the brunette and sliced the ropes. When he reached him, Takato embraced him and muttered, I thought I had lost you for good boy. Guilman then started to glow bright red before a road was made out of it that led outside the dome. As he swam in its direction, Henry said, he's made a road for us. Rika, not to be outdone, added, yeah, well Renneman could have done the same. Oh, you two, take it easy. The blonde smirked and said, we all know Flamin would have just blown this shit up by now. Then he turned and yelled. Are you two coming? Because I'm not going to stay to see what happens when this garbage is removed. Attracting the two's attention, they dash in the direction of the others and leap out as the dome falls and is erased. From his spot on the ground, the blonde muttered, man, I hate that thing. Well at least it's gone, and received a round of applause. The group discovered a rather intriguing scenario after emerging from the tunnels. It appeared that the three were attempting to amuse themselves. Is that bird there? I spy? Renneman asked, attempting to guess what Terriermon had chosen as his target. No, was the bunny's response, and it laughed. Flamin said, that bench, while attempting to figure out the solution to the game they had been playing ever since the others had arrived. Yo, we're back, Naruto exclaimed as they approached the trio. Renneman casually replied, that's nice, as she gazed at the bunny Digimon, attempting to decipher the answer, making Rika perspire at the seriousness of her partner's behavior during a game. Yeah, hey Guilman, Flamin said absently while searching for another guess. Yeah, so we almost got killed, was the bait used to elicit a response from the blonde. How did that go for you, huh? Really, who knew Digimon were so competitive? Renneman asked as she made another guess, causing the group to perspire. Forget it, we give up, what on earth is the answer, then? Flamin yelled as he tugged at his hair. That tree silly, was the bunny's straightforward response, which caused the temperature to drop several degrees in their immediate vicinity. A tree? Renneman stood up and asked in a menacing manner, which caused Rika to approach her partner. Yup, was Terriermon's smiling response. As Flamin approached the bunny, he said, Terriermon, that was our first guess. Naruto and Rika had both sensed that things would not be going well for the little bunny. Terriermon pointed to a random tree and said, no, you said that tree. Terriermon's only reaction was for both Digimon to growl in annoyance and charge at him, yelling, Terriermon, you bastard. Do we need to assist him? As she observed the humorous scene of the two attempting to maim the bunny, Rika questioned. Naruto grinned and said, nope, it's good for the little idiot. But I wonder if he's going to survive, the blonde said candidly. Naruto, who still hadn't recovered from what Terriermon had done, yelled, you should really calm down Flamin, as he watched his partner shoot another ball of flame at a nearby boulder. The situation had been this way for a week, and the poor bunny, like Digimon, was fortunate to escape with only minor burns before he intervened and ordered them to move away for the time being. Oh no. It will be paid by that little fool. He shot back Flamin with conviction in his eyes as he fired another ball of fire at the unfortunate boulder. Fortunately, it was nighttime at the moment, or else this would draw attention. However, given the continuous flames, perhaps it wasn't a good idea to let his digital brother vent his rage in the dark. He should also probably vent his anger, as they hadn't had any real fighters in a long time, but he was supposed to be the responsible adult, so that was just his luck. Sitting on one of the tree's branches and sucking on a lollipop, the blonde muttered, just let go of it. Don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this, from his seat against the tree's trunk. When you're with your girl, please try being made a fool of by a stupid bunny. Flamin turned to his best friend and replied. After a moment, Naruto said, I see your point. It was strange that he was thinking of Rika in such a possessive manner. Did he really want her that way? He found her attractive, and the way she thought and behaved around him made him want to return for more. He assumed that he might be able to. But is it right for me to? The blonde asked, waking from his reverie. Since when is she your girl? Flamin stopped shooting and grinned as he turned to face his brother. Well, she's not yet, but I can tell she wants to be, he replied. As he swung one of his legs off the branch, his tamer remarked, yeah, that's so like you to make that assumption. He knew he wasn't that far from the truth, though, because even he could tell that Renneman was into him. Now, if only he could find out what Rika thought of him. Damn it, he had to get that girl out of his head. However, he soon found his opportunity when his D-arc beeped. Hey, do you have a job? Flamin approached his friend and asked. The shinobi responded, seems like it, as the compass on his D-arc indicated the location ahead of him. Seems work found us. Yes, I'm lucky, huh? As the digital field spread, Flamin grinned and added, I think I'm getting what I wanted. A better way to let out my frustrations. Would you mind if I interrupted? As he discarded the used stick from his lollipop, his tamer asked. Sorry bro. But you know how I hate it when someone cuts in on my dances, added the other person. Ungrateful little bastard, was the blonde's response as he remained in his seat but chose to lean against the trunk instead. As the digital field was now growing and reaching him as well, he would have to settle for watching for the time being, even though the Digimon might be a terrible fight anyhow. The blonde could see the Digimon's silhouette through the thick fog before he saw it. It looked somewhat like a samurai, and he could tell by the blade he was carrying that this would be an interesting battle. Who is this guy, nae Naruto? As he prepared for battle, Flamin posed the question. He's a virus champion Digimon named Musaimon. Proficient with the blade. He uses the ninja blade and shogun sword as his weapons. As he approached, Naruto glanced at the Digimon and exclaimed, so yeah, this guy should be a decent fight, you little bastard. Would you like to digivolve? As he extended his D-arc, he added the blonde. Flamin said, nope, I shouldn't need to, as he approached Musaimon and heard his quiet mumble, pig-headed idiot. It's very kind of you to stop by, friend. As Flamin approached his opponent, he yelled, unfortunately, I can't let you stay long, so let's get down to business. Who do you think is going to send me back a Digimon that obeys pitiful human commands? Musaimon looked at the blonde in the tree and spat out the last word like a bad, tasting food. Yeah, that's about right, Flamin replied as he started to work. He attempted to land a solid roundhouse kick, but Musaimon blocked it with his forearm. Musaimon then quickly tried to cut Flamin in half with his sword. But Flamin quickly reacted by jumping back and started to shoot blasts of fire, but they were either dodged or deflected. As he turned to face the scene, the blonde exclaimed, you should digivolve. As he avoided another slash, Flamon said, I'm just getting warmed up. Never one to back down. He started using a combination of Flame Tail and Noble Heart to try to gain the upper hand. Most of the attacks were able to hit but only caused minor damage due to Musaimon's armor. Musaimon yelled, enough of this, as he seized Flamin and threw him across the field, then used Shogun Sword, which caused his sword to shoot out a ghostly flame dragon that was directly at Flamin. However, Flamin was able to quickly get his bearings and roll to the side, taking only minor damage. Musaimon, on the other hand, was rapidly executing his ninja blade attack, with blue flames already covering his blade. Flamin, you idiot, he muttered as he was already approaching the two with a kunai in each hand. Just before the Digimon's attack could land, the blonde spun around to gain momentum and used his left kunai to stop the attack. However, even as he did so, the blonde and his Digimon had to leap back because his kunai broke from the force of the blow. What was the point of interrupting your dance? The blonde asked, letting out a laugh as he threw the second kunai at the Digimon, with the intention of slapping it to the side with the sword. How about we tango? Sheepishly, Flamin suggested. Yeah, I thought so, the blonde added as they both started to move in unison towards the enemy. They were moving so perfectly in time that Musaimon was having a hard time keeping up with them as they circled him, but he didn't have to wait long before he saw Flamin throw some at him with Noble Heart and block it with the side of his sword. Remember about the pathetic human? Flamin remarked smirking. As he plunged his futon, Kei's no Yeba, wind release, blade of wind, into Musaimon's skull, deleting him, the blonde assassin added, cause it'll cost you. With a sigh, the blonde turned to look at his partner. You are aware that your lack of seriousness from the start made you appear inexperienced, right? The blonde raised his right eyebrow and asked. Yes, I am aware of it, and it won't occur again, but what do you know? Flamin smirked and asked. What? Though he believed the response would make him regret asking, he asked his partner. The Digimon grinned and replied, I feel better now, I think I might be able to stand next to Terriermon without wanting to strangle him. Baka. As they made their way home, The assassin slapped his partner in the back of the head and yelled, "God!" He needed sleep. The only way to get away from his stupid brother. The following day, even though the only thing that had caught his attention all day was the warning that there was a kid in the park playing pranks, the blonde sighed as he packed up everything he owned and realized that he was the only one there except for a small group of girls who were chatting in the corner. As he put on his backpack and started to walk toward the doorway, the blonde thought, a Digimon perhaps. That is, until he heard the girls in the corner whispering softly to each other. So, are you curious about what I heard? You'll be furious about this. Can you believe that a child is harassing couples in the park as they share a kiss? Following this statement, the girls started staring at him in a pitiful attempt to scare him. The blonde calmly stared at them and called out, "You know, if you have a problem with me, you can say it to my face and not hide it like some idiot." One of the girls quickly said, "You know, it had to be a boy," and another said, "Yeah, confess." How did you arrive at that conclusion? Really, these were the future of humanity. Man, they were so screwed, the blonde said, allowing humor to permeate his voice. One of the girls glared at Naruto and said, "All this weird stuff began to happen when you showed up." A chorus of, "Yeah," followed. "Is that all?" the blonde asked, letting out a laugh before continuing, "Girls, please, that's a pitiful argument. In addition to being a dumb point, let me simplify it for you now. Would you be held responsible if one of you sneezed right now and that desk caught fire?" "Of course not, you idiot," the girl smiled in response. "That's my point. It's disrespectful that my presence here is connected in any way to what's happening here. Additionally, I bite, so you should watch it if you want to start name calling. However, my argument has been validated. How in the hell does that make me culpable? Aside from that, I have more important things to do than waste my time on such a dumb joke." As he crossed his arms, the blonde asked, never allowing them to respond, not that he believed they could. It appears that he was correct when he said, "It just is," to another girl who refused to change her opinion. "As you are aware, I have no idea why I am speaking with you." The blonde grabbed the door handle and said, "I can't get through to you anyway, it's obvious," but he turned back to face them. "However, if a police officer shows up at my door to discuss this matter and I discover that you stupid fools are to blame. To put it simply, I hope purple hair suits you. Or perhaps green or blue neon." "He was good, man," he said, grinning as he saw the blonde turn pale. "Was it really necessary to make that threat?" was asked of the blonde as he left the classroom and noticed Takato standing close to the door. "No, I guess not, but it felt good," the blonde shrugged. "Are you even willing to participate in that prank?" As they headed for the doorway, the brunette asked. "Uncertain. Not particularly driven. But if they went pale at the idea, I might just go along with it to see what happens," the blonde shrugged in response. "It is entirely up to them, so I'll just let them make the decision." "You realize it could cost me to be your friend?" Takato smiled and asked. "Well, perhaps, but consider it this way." "Well, kind of," the blonde said humorously at the end of his response, "you at least get to talk with girls." Takato shot back, "Oh joy," in a sarcastic manner before going on, "You know Jerry hangs out with them, right?" After giving it some thought, the blonde replied, "Oh yeah, and then, good luck with that." Although Jerry wasn't at fault for hanging out with those girls, the fact that they were occasionally conceited and whiny irritated the blonde to no end. "Wait, what is meant by that?" Takato paused and glanced at the blonde before answering. The blonde shrugged and said, "Well, Jerry never really yells at me, even when I do make threats. So that leaves you as the one she yells at for not stopping me," she added. "Hold on, that's unfair," Takato protested, waving his arms around. The blonde replied, "It's not supposed to," as he started to move once more. "Besides, you're the one who has a crush on the crazy chick." "Shish. Shut up," was Takato's blushing stutter as they reached outside. "What is the matter with him?" Henry questioned them as he watched them approach a tree by the exit. Leaning against the tree and avoiding Takato's punch at his shoulder, the blonde calmly replied, "Oh, nothing, just discussing Senor Goggles' love life." "Forget about him. Did Mr. Mori alert you to the tiny pyromaniac?" Takato inquired. "Indeed, he cautioned us against staying out too late." "How serious was Ms. Asaji's threat, then?" Henry asked in a lighthearted manner. It was well known that she was a teacher who frequently gave lengthy detentions but would typically not enforce the penalty if the student's behavior was utterly foolish. To Takato's dry response, "A 3 weeks' worth and some extra homework too." Henry added, "Well, that'll ensure that nobody from your class, well, practically everyone, will be out late." He gave the blonde a quick glance. "What? Why am I being accused all the time?" asked the blonde, still smiling, but in a hurtful tone. Takato said aloud, grabbing the attention of the other two. Now that I think about it, I wonder who it is. I mean, most of the kids here would get caught and it wasn't any of us. Now that everyone else had gone, Terriermon swung down, holding himself up with his ears, and yelled, "Wise up guys, they just think it's a kid because it's too small to be an adult." So, what Digimon is responsible for this? Takato raised an eyebrow and asked. Probably, but the majority of our Digimon are incapable of using fire, and the two of the three who are would not waste their time on this pointless stunt. And Guilman isn't the type to pull that kind of crap, Naruto replied, gazing up at the sky, adding that Renamon would smash his head into the concrete if Flamen had been the one playing the prank. What the heck? Did one get away with it? Henry gazed at the blonde and asked. He might have taken night shifts to cover for the brats at night, but he couldn't cover everything. Yeah, probably a rookie, since anything higher would be causing far greater damage, the blonde replied. Henry grabbed Terriermon and continued, "Well, that's not good. I heard the principal telling the teachers they have to start patrolling the park tonight." What? That's awful. They're definitely going to catch Guilman now, Takato said urgently. The majority of the teachers here won't venture that far into the park, so I doubt it. Be careful, though, that he doesn't start wandering around at that hour. As he got up and turned to leave, the blonde said, "At least until this crap blows over." "Will you tell Rika?" Henry asked, grinning amusedly. The blonde waved and said, "Yeah, that, and make sure she gets home safely. Damn girl has a thing for attracting trouble." "You don't believe that they're?" Takato asked, glancing at the departing blonde. While there were clear indications that the blonde liked Rika, Henry responded, Naruto's madness and Rika's hot-headed attitude. Let's just say that a headache waiting to happen. Beyond Rika's school, the blonde shinobi would occasionally stop by to visit her after classes, but always made a sardonic jab at her school clothes. Rika could imagine a number of scenarios of who might be waiting for her outside the gate, and it wasn't a huge surprise to see him there. As she approached him, the blonde exclaimed, "Ever so glad to see you in those clothes, Rika-chan." Naturally, this prompted a variety of envious glances from the nearby girls. Rika muttered, "Arrow. Baka," she was still unaccustomed to the blonde's direct flirtation. The pervert shrugged his shoulders and started to accompany her home, saying, "Meh, I've been told before." "And you were handed your ass?" Rika questioned in a derisive manner. The blonde replied, recalling his experience with Jiraiya, "Actually, yeah, though I never did learn." "Not surprisingly blonde," Rika said, grinning. "Though I can't really help myself, not when I'm near someone as beautiful as you," caused the blonde to blush in different shades of red, which was the desired outcome. "Shut up, idiot," was Rika's response as she averted her gaze and shook her head sideways. The blonde chuckled and simply shook his head before saying, "Rika, you're so different. To be able to stand up to Digimon that would make a grown man cowered in fear, but to be falling to pieces over little old me. Well, you shouldn't be talking, Blondie. If I remember correctly, you ran when I made that threat last time," retorted Rika, who never backs down. The blonde smiled and calmly replied, "Yeah, I suppose I did, huh?" The two soon reached Rika's house, where the female tamer asked, "Will you be entering at this time? I assumed you didn't want me to return here." Smiling, the blonde asked. As she turned to go inside, Rika said, "I could take my offer back." However, her grandmother's question about the blonde was the true reason she invited him, and although she didn't want to see him go, she had to admit that he kept things interesting. As he followed the girl inside, the blonde said, Why not? I got nothing better to do today." Rika exclaimed, "Oba-chan, I'm home," and brought Blondie, after they had taken off their shoes. Although he didn't mind the name, Naruto whispered, "I'm not a dog, you know, so you can drop the nickname." Rika replied in a whisper, but with humor, "You might as well be, because sooner or later I'm going to have you bowing at my feet." As soon as the two teenagers entered the kitchen, Seiko smiled and said, "Oh, hello, Naruto-san." "Good afternoon, Seiko-san," the shinobi replied, bowing slightly. "So, Rika-chan, how was your day?" Seiko turned to her granddaughter and asked. "Boring as usual," was Rika's reply as she handed the other glass to the blonde and took a sip of water from the one she had grabbed. Rika exclaimed, "I'm going to change," as she turned to leave. With a, "Okay, hun," shout, the grandmother of the girls turned to face the now smiling blonde and inquired, "What is Naruto-san?" With a faint smile, the blonde replied, "You remind me a lot of a person I used to know." "Who, may I ask?" "She's lucky to have you close to her," the blonde replied, recalling the elderly woman who was actually much too much like a grandmother. Seiko grinned and said, "I think I'm the one who's lucky." She then turned back to the blonde and inquired, "And your godmother?" While lying, the blonde replied, I didn't meet her until I was 12. But after that we were close till I lost her. He had only wished what had happened to the leaf and everyone else when he left, adding, I suppose I'll find out when my time comes. As she considered how much the blonde had already lost, the older woman consoled, I'm sorry to hear that Naruto-san.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.